I guess on that. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time in quite a while, we're back up here at the Mountain Cabin Studios. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me is my new American citizen, authentic.
Oh, yes.
No longer a redcoat, co-host.
It's still in the blood, though, Billy.
Well, Simon, good to see you again.
Always good to be here. I love the fact that we're in an authentic cabin, just chilling, shooting the shit. Being facetious.
Anyway, so we need to check on a couple things. We're back, but yeah, Simon, it's been a while since we've been back in the studio, and probably close to 2 months now. Our last show we recorded in here was that hypothetical what a free and prosperous Appalachia would look like with our buddy Smokey the Appalachia Stanley. Part 2 is still out there. If you haven't listened to it yet,
Yep.
you got to go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/getontap for just $10 a day. You can catch the rest of that. So it's been that long since we've been in here.
It's a tragedy.
It's been a very emotional time since our last show. I mean, an awful lot has happened personally to us, culturally, nationally. I mean, I say, where do we begin? But where we begin real quick is we'll go ahead and introduce everybody else we got here. Chip Slate from Being Libertarian is back in the cabin.
Good to be here.
Once again, good to see you, my friend. I want to talk to you about your visit to Salem a couple of weeks ago. Maybe we can touch on that just a bit. And
that was wild.
obviously, if you can't miss him in the voice, our good friend Amos Denton, the fourth chair. I don't know how that happened, but it's happened, and now he is the fourth chair. And he is the reason we are the #1 podcast in the German Baptist community.
I'm glad you got that out so early.
Well, somebody's got to do the rough work.
Is it a fourth chair or fourth dimension? I mean, what is he bringing here?
Both.
And we're joining our guest today as an impromptu guest. We just came up here and decided to jump on Mike. And what was your last name?
Myers.
Mike.
Oh,
Mike
dear.
Meyers.
Nice.
Oh, groovy.
Yes,
baby.
I did not tell y'all his last name.
American-born.
Oh,
American-born Mike Myers. Okay, American-born Mike
Well,
Myers.
hold on. I mean,
And it's not even Halloween.
Now some of y'all were going to
Billy's train of thought.
some of y'all were going to Shrek, and some of y'all were going to Halloween. You know what I mean? Which direction are y'all going? Because I went Halloween, Michael Myers, not that goofy Austin Powers.
I'm going Austin Powers all the way, baby.
That's where I went. The
Shall we
Canadian.
shag
Yeah,
now
that's why I
or
said
shall
the
we shag later? Oh, groovy.
Did he do your people well in that movie?
You know what the cheeky bastard did? Yeah, he did. He did it very well. It's just genius script writing.
Yeah, I was a big fan
brilliant.
when I was growing up. And the best part about it is you could watch it as a kid and an adult and get the innuendos or miss them if you were a kid. So it was perfect for, pretty much anybody in the family to watch. So.
Yeah, I mean, Ivana Humpalot and a lot of vagina. I mean, it's just absolute. These play on words. It was genius script writing.
Oh, he was great.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, how in the hell did you find your way up here tonight?
Garland.
There we go.
Say no more.
Yeah, that answer wraps up. That's
Garland
deep.
did it
That's
again.
deep right there.
I was interested in podcasts, and I always wanted to see one being done. And my nephew, he does them, but he lives up in Richmond. And I was like, well, I retire. I'm going to come up there. I'm going to check it out and see how it's done. And Garland told me, he's like, well, there's one right here. And so he invited me down, and here I am.
Well, I apologize. This is your first experience, and it has to be his place.
Yeah, no,
Because if you're used to listening to the shows like, Rogan and Tim Pool and stuff, they're very professional, I should say. We are
Well,
We're
not
getting there.
quite. But hey, look, I mean, we look professional and we kind of sound professional once we send ourselves through all the software, but it's a good time, though. We appreciate you coming up here and joining
I
us.
listened to the few, and I heard you mention the Patreon question. I listened to Team Never Quit and the Rob O'Neill one, and they all have a Patreon question. I don't know what that is. I mean, I know there's a question, but what does that mean?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. Patreon is our subscription website. And for anybody out there who wants to kind of help support us, you go to patreon.com/getontap, and for as little as $10 a day, you can always give more, but $3 a month, you become a subscriber. So the subscribers get all of our shows early. Like our last show, we split into two. The second half hasn't been released to the public, but our Patreon subscribers can go listen to it. We also do after shows. I don't know if we're going to do one tonight or not. We'll see how the liquor flows and the time goes. But most of the times we're up here, we'll run a show about an hour and a half to hour 45 minutes, and then do a 30 to 45 minute after show that subscribers, can get on our Patreon page. So, if everybody out there, we'll kind of get into why here in a minute. But I think becoming a subscriber Also on X now, you can become a subscriber over there for only $3 a month. Different. I can't add the X people to Patreon for some reason now. I wish they would allow me to add your email address, but you're getting different benefits on different platforms. So on Patreon, you get the shows early and the after shows. You get to interact with us. On X, we're going to do subscriber only spaces starting soon. You know, Spike jump in there, Chip, you know, a bunch of these people we've had on the show on, like Ben Swans of the world, you know, guys we've had on our show that would be easier to get through the spaces. And
When we can start inviting these subscribers to these spaces, and if they want a space to talk, we can work that in.
absolutely. So there's a lot going on. A lot. It's not just a podcast you're supporting anymore. You're supporting almost a movement. We've talked about that in some of our spaces we've released in the past couple of weeks, but we can get into it a little bit more here tonight. But a lot of things have changed since the last time.
I mean,
we
if you
recorded a
blink,
show.
you've missed the next step in technology. Really, particularly with social media. It's a bit of a minefield, to be
It's
honest.
changing
with you.
that fast too.
Yeah.
I mean, we were completely different. Following wise, listener wise, a lot changed. And well, before we jump into the meat of everything, we'll go ahead and start it off. Big reason we had the hiatus is I had a baby girl.
God bless
She
you.
is 6-7 weeks old now, something like
I
that.
met her for the first time yesterday.
Yeah.
She's delightful.
She's a doll baby. She's gonna have me wrapped around like her older sister does.
Mhm.
Everybody's healthy. Everything's good. That's what we were kind of hoping for. And 'cause Tara, she's a worrier. Unlike me, I'm magooing through life, not even paying attention to my peripherals, what's going on. And she's got her eye in on everything. So it's the yin and the yang. It helps us work. So for everybody out there that chipped in or sent us something or well wishes, we appreciate it. And hopefully, moving forward, we'll be able to be back up here in the studio on a more consistent, permanent video kind of basis. But we're getting there. And Simon, for you've been gone the past 4 or 5
Yeah,
weeks.
I spent the best part of a month up in New Jersey at Sloan Kettering with radiation treatment. Unfortunately, the cancer came back. It was caught very early, so prognosis is all remaining very good. But yeah, radiation sucks. For those that know about it, it's a necessary evil. But all is good. You
look healthy.
Yeah,
You
I
look
got
good.
zapped. I mean, my hair's come back. Whoa!
Now, what is that over there you're drinking on? Because
It's nothing at all, Billy.
I just wanted to make sure it was only ginger ale, because when we came up here for the Veterans Day celebration yesterday, Heather made it very clear that, maybe you weren't going to be drinking down here tonight.
Oh,
Anything.
well-
I would not want to get you in trouble.
No, and I know you wouldn't, Billy. You're a shithead.
Did she actually listen to the shows?
Thankfully, no.
Oh, good. My wife doesn't either.
Billy's number one.
Yeah.
Never bank on it, Billy.
Well, yeah, so there was a lot of prayers going around, and for us and for Simon, and they
Yeah,
all,
I mean,
they
that's
were all
support.
answered. And
We had that fundraising that was phenomenal with Nancy and Kelly Alderman. I mean, they got
Unbelievable,
that
Mike.
ball rolling. It was extraordinary. So, when you've got a community that works like that, you're in a good spot, right? And I'm in a good spot.
I think we all are. What have you been up to, Chip?
Man, just working and trying to keep kids healthy. My son had an appendicitis that we had to work through out of nowhere, so that was fun.
Was that a rush visit, or it was managed, or not, or it was just like?
Well, he'd had, his stomach been hurting him a couple of days. We just thought it was a stomach bug, but then Saturday said, well, he's still feeling bad. So my wife took him to the doctor, and they said, he probably needs to get tested, but it's not during the weekday. We don't have the resources to do it. So
off to the ER you go.
off to Baptist. We took him to Baptist. We decided to take him down to Winston, and we did. They admitted him that night and did the surgery, and thank goodness he was.
How
They
old is-
remove it?
Oh yeah, took it out. It had ruptured in there.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Now that's when it can get really
Well,
exciting.
Apparently there was an abscess in there, and that helped. Like everything was contained, and so it all came out
Oh, thank
well.
heavens.
It was. He was really fortunate with it.
How old is he?
He's 9 now. He just had a birthday last week.
13. I had to get mine removed,
Oof.
and it ain't nothing fun.
It seemed quite painful, but yeah, he's doing much better now and swimming again, and will actually be at Salem this weekend for a swim meet. So
Oh, that's
Um,
great news.
Well, thank God
Yeah.
you can live without that.
Amen.
Yeah, that's one of the ones
That's right.
you can live without. You know, it's
Get
kind of
out.
a weird one. That
There's a
I've
couple
always-
things they can take out. And you can be
Yeah.
all right.
Well,
Maybe
there's
I'm-
some that they say you can, but there are. I mean, the spleen is another one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some other issues by removing a spleen. But I mean, thankfully, appendicitis and whatever that was originally designed for in God's great plan,
And, you know, that, I mean,
is
that's
a bit of a mystery.
It is.
that's the thing about the medical world. You know, they're unbelievable technology, do great wonders on one side, and on the other side, it can be a demise in a hurry.
Yeah.
What have you
Well,
been up to,
that's
Amos?
Working.
Cutting hay?
Yeah. Well, no, that's done for the year.
Hallelujah.
Did you sell it all?
No.
Okay.
It's all
You
set-
will.
It's sitting in the barn. Now I'm trying to get an addition done so me and the wife can move and make the wife happy.
And then we can get down there
Happy
and start,
wife, happy life.
Amen.
then we get down there and start working on that cabin there below your house and turn it into a outpost studio. And boy, I tell you what,
That'll be fun.
that'd be a lot of fun. We all chip in and go up there one day and clean the place up and do whatever he needs. Just have him guiding us and leading us, and of course Simon supervising. Since we got you right here hot, before we jump into the first thing I want to talk about, did any of the German Baptists vote this year? And did that whole Amish thing really happen, or was that all propaganda?
Oh no, the Amish thing really happened.
It did?
Yeah, for sure.
Made the difference.
That was Pennsylvania.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, because I mean, you
And
can
Ohio.
see videos of horse and carriages with Trump signs, and everybody was claiming. I never saw anybody say otherwise, but they were claiming that they all got together and made a huge difference in Pennsylvania. How did that come to be? I mean,
Well, in the Amish religion, the bishops set the rules for each community. There's no overarching umbrella per se. So each bishop so if, say the bishops in Ohio got together and thought that that was the good of the community, they would allow their members to vote. Same way with Pennsylvania. And so I'm assuming that the bishops decided, hey, this is what needs to happen. But, I think in Pennsylvania for sure, I don't know if you ever seen the family up there that the government went after for selling raw
the
milk.
raw milk.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or it was beef shares.
And, right.
Yeah.
I mean, they were doing
shares.
it all on a
Legit.
CSA.
Yeah.
And
legit.
the government went after them. And I think that was a big thing in, them saying, hey, enough's enough.
Yep.
If we're not
Yep.
allowed to milk our own cows and sell it to our neighbors, raise our own food, sell it to our neighbors,
I think that's all about
we can't,
change.
we can't sustain ourselves. And so, I think that was a big driving factor and some of the, the conservative plain religions saying, we've seen and had enough. Now, as far as German I don't know, and nobody will ever know if they did or didn't.
but it didn't come out as an official. Like there ain't nobody out there waving Trump flags or anything like that.
No.
Not officially.
For Pennsylvania, I don't know what the rules are, but some states require voter ID, driver's license. So the Amish don't drive. So what kind of ID do they have to
Do
prove
they
that
really?
can
Do
vote?
they really make you have an ID to vote?
Yeah, in,
You sure?
in Virginia they do.
Well, not every state.
Or you
does.
got to sign a.
They're all a little bit different,
Yeah, they
which
are.
is madness.
Yeah.
It's a
This
is a federal.
But I was just wondering because the Amish don't really register and don't have driver's licenses in a lot of places.
But they have an ID card.
I didn't know that. That's
Like
why,
if-
that's why I was asking.
Even my mom, mom and dad, they have ID cards, but they don't even have pictures on their driver's license. They have driver's license, but they don't have pictures on them.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that's
Is
in,
that an exception?
Through
Because
a
of the
religious
religion?
exemption. Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's,
They don't,
that's-
they don't pay Social Security taxes.
How do I join?
through-
He'll be
here
at
we
church
go.
on Sunday.
We're all going to be wearing big broad-brimmed hats. I see it coming.
but
Man,
but so
Amos's influence is strong.
they have driver's license, but they don't believe in taking pictures, so they don't have their pictures on their ID. I know that the deacons of the church go to DC and sit down and work some of that stuff out with lawmakers, and as far as the Social Security taxes and all of that, I'm not exactly sure, but it's through a religious exemption.
But they're all going to be issued a Social Security number, right? So you're gonna get that number whether you like it
Well,
or not.
nowadays
No, you have to file for that still. Like, I
Yeah,
have to go
because
turn
you
in
have
the
to go to a
paperwork.
hospital to be born in a hospital. If they're not born in a hospital,
Yeah, but I think
you could probably fly under the radar and not have a social.
you
security
can
number.
if you do it that way. If
But-
you're not born in a hospital, but if you're born in a hospital, then you're falling
Right,
into
right. Then you sort of
then you
forced
have to
into
have that
the paperwork.
registrar do whatever.
Mandated reporting.
Yeah.
Aunt Virginia May was obviously born at home, never had a social security number, no birth certificate, has never had one.
See, that's
And, she's in her 70s.
Can you change your name?
Do I?
Change your name for the podcast.
And gets a letter from DMV that she has to, I guess, after a certain age, they just pick and choose. So many people have to come in and take the driver's test. And she went in to do it, but she had no
No credentials.
No form of
Nothing.
ID. Yeah.
all she had was her driver's license that she's had since 1942 or whatever. No social security number, no birth certificate. It took over 6 months of jumping through hoops for her to be able to keep driving because she had no paperwork.
Wow. That's
Now-
interesting.
Wild.
I mean, if you would have snuck across the border, that wouldn't matter. But if you've lived in the
Yeah, they'd have
mountains
gave
for
you a
78
driver's
years,
license
that
then.
matters.
Yep. And a debit card.
Yeah, she ain't got one of them either.
Well, just imagine what we could do here in this county if we had a certain population all come out and vote and flip every single board of supervisors and school board seat there was out there to flip and started easing up regulations on the farm
I
owners.
think-
And
I think that's a great dream.
it's a good conversation. We can keep
it's
on.
a great conversation piece. I agree. But the reality is I don't think that.
Probably not
Yeah,
now.
so-
If things are going to make a decent trend in the other direction as everybody's anticipating, then it probably won't be a need for the time being.
I'd love them.
But
to-
locally, though, locally is a whole different ballgame than nationally. We got to keep that.
Well,
in
I'd love
mind.
them to accept their constitutional responsibility.
and
And I'll
see
leave-
when
I'll
you
leave
talk
it at
about that. I mean, I don't pay that much attention. I didn't even know who the mayor of Boone's Mill was until Whitey started running, and it's like same with Franklin County. All these people on the boards until you get your taxes. But
Well, that's what they want. They want you to not know who they are. They want to
Well-
stay inconspicuous.
I'm gonna retire in January. I'm gonna start figuring stuff out,
There you go.
There you go.
and I'll run for
It's not
something.
going to be an Amish pastor.
Do
right?
They can still run for office, can't they?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, if you run,
They're
no,
I
they're
can
all
do
conscious
both.
objectors, so no.
Mhm. Well, I know a good podcast you can come on if you do go running. So let us know.
Yeah, we've had influence in elections before on this show, and I'm sure we'll do it again. Probably the worst thing for the Board of Supervisors to hear now is we're getting back to full strength because there for a minute we were up there crawling pretty solid. We hadn't forgot about them. We still dream about them every night. We're still here.
And talk about them.
Yeah. But
But at the end of the day, that's the problem. Everything starts very local. And, Garland and Mike's generation, everything was so good they didn't have to worry about it. We become complacent. They never even thought about who their board of supervisors was or what kind of votes they were making because everything was good.
They did a good job.
But in return, that allowed them to start doing stuff that wasn't so good, which gets you to where
we're at.
we're at,
Mhm.
where they're selling off donated church property back to the family member for $21,000 that was donated to the church. That's how you get there.
I think, yeah, it's the younger generation and entitlement, and they just think they're entitled to the job and they can do what they want and they're always going to be there. Where, like you say, if you get involved and start voting them out,
Or
we can
questioning-
change things.
questioning what they're doing.
Oh yeah,
Well,
go,
I mean,
go to
I-
meetings.
A lot of it has got to do with transparency or a lack thereof, and that's what's been going on is a lack of transparency. I think we've been exploiting that. We need to know that when you're dropping millions of dollars on property speculation with our tax dollars, that's number one. It's not your bloody mandate to start with, and you've proven historically that you can't do it. And we need to control our tax dollars, and that is our bloody right.
Well, a lot of that, I think, too, is a lot of these rich people that have influence with the people
nail
in
on the
those
head.
positions. And it's like, hey, buddy,
This is how we
let's
play the
do
game.
this, and
Mhm.
You
we
know
can
it.
give you some kickbacks. And
Here's another contract.
I actually, unfortunately,
All
know
these rich
somebody who's
people,
done it.
are you talking about your friends?
Yes. Well, they ain't really my friend, but I know them.
Yeah. But that, I mean, and that goes on. And it would be naive to say, oh, no, it doesn't. You know, you get the progressive pushback. Oh, no, that doesn't happen. Please cite me examples. Well, just shut them.
Well, but it also it backs up to the very local level guys get by with it. So guess what? The state guys know they can get by with it. So the federal guys know they can get by with it.
Oh, it's a knock-on effect. Of course it is.
So then in reverse, to change it,
You've got to start from grassroots.
you start at the bottom.
Yep.
And you hold the local guys accountable, which makes the state guys know that they are going to be held accountable. And that's the only way to go back. And it's way harder to reverse it.
Well, and on that, do you think what Trump's talking about these organizations of government efficiency, do you think that's going to basically bring the Fed into that, and bring the federal government to doing the same thing that we're looking at locally? Actual accountability?
I think he's got to work from top down. We've got to work from bottom up.
Right.
Yes, and meet in the middle.
And that's where we all get impacts.
I mean, it sounds extreme to some of these crazy people, but his talking about government efficiency and hopefully getting Elon Musk in there. But the Department of Education, what a waste of money. When you see some of the darn dollars that they get and what the education is in this country and some of the things that they push on kids, yeah, please wipe it out.
Yep.
Give all the states some money.
Back to states' rights.
Do what they want.
Yeah.
And then the state should give it back to localities.
And then
they'll have
local people have an opinion on what their children are learning.
But if you have the local police department and the local fire department hamstring needing funding from the feds because you're taxing the locals so much that they can't fund it, well, you have to do this, and this to get this money.
Carrot and stick.
Right.
Now, so you was talking about Department of Education. Everybody do their homework. And Google whatever. I hate Google, but Google. Look up the 80 years ago, the culture, what everybody was wearing. Look what the cars looked like. Look what our houses looked like. Then come up 40 years. And every city, average. Look at our clothes, our house, our cars. Come to present day. Look at our clothes, our house, our cars. Then in return, look what our schools look like 80 years ago versus 40 versus now. They've never changed.
Right,
our kids still go to cinder block buildings in desks. The Department of everything in our life has changed, but our education system.
But that's what I'm saying. If you got rid of that and if it's federally the bureaucrats run it, then they have all these rules for how you get money for your schools.
Yep.
Okay, let's go by population and state, and here's the check with no rules attached, and the state decides at the local level how we're going to run our school, how we're going to build whatever, but you get the money without strings from the federal government.
Well, get rid of the federal education system, scratch the amount of taxes each state sends to all that bull crap and let that same money be used at a state level versus a federal level.
Pretty much what I said there.
I mean, but even down, I got an 8-year-old daughter. This stuff, it's mind boggling to me, the schools. I'm a numbers man.
But again,
I can figure math problems as fast as you can write them down. My daughter can do math problems and get the right answer, but it's wrong because it's not 400 boxes and squares and checks. If Noah threw every animal off that ark and told them to swim to that spot of land or get to that spot of land, some would fly, some would swim, some would wait for the water to go down more and walk. But yet,
some would make a boat.
By the federal government standards, every kid has to do it the same way. That don't work. And that's the problem. We don't get the U's in the world no more. Or the Garwins.
One of the worst pieces of educational legislation that came upon us was the No Child Left Behind. it's a horrible piece of legislation. I
The
think
way it was implemented.
the way it was implemented, and I think the thought process behind it was very genuine, and I get the thought process behind it, but how it's been implemented is appalling, because you went down to the lowest common denominator, and that you cannot do.
We don't even have
But
report
see-
cards no more.
That's the thing too about the education system. You've got all these Harvard people, this and that, and they are educated, but they think they're
common sense.
really intelligent, but lost the common sense.
None.
But when they get in these positions, a lot of them, I think, to implement these rules and try is an experimentation for them to try and just, okay, let's check the data. Let's see how that worked. And they're just playing with you.
How'd you
You
become
know?
educated?
What's that?
You're a smart man. How'd you become educated?
Public school. Then I worked because I didn't want to go to college at the time. And then after I worked long enough, I was like, man, this sucks. And then I was like, then I went back, went to college and got a degree. And
But by being allowed to think,
right. I mean,
you know,
I
you
went to-
educated yourself for all intents and purposes.
oh, yeah. But
You're allowed to think.
I went to a darn technical school, not a higher
go.
education, liberal
Thank you
arts.
very much.
I was learning how to fix airplanes.
Exactly.
Something you can actually use.
You know, I was already a mechanic, and it's like, well, airline industry goes up and down. I mean, at that time it was up.
Hopefully,
It's-
mostly up.
Yeah, and well,
The trick is
they
staying
all
up.
come down. You just hope it ain't.
You want it to be controlled?
Yeah.
Gravity wins 9 times out of 10.
Everything's a controlled crash.
But you're talking about the DOE and these SOL tests. So if you get rid of the Department of Education, all those requirements are now gone. And so that would be a great thing. And people get really upset, or they think the Department of Education is sacred. It's only been around since 1980. It's only been around for a few decades. And so, it shouldn't be that
It's
big
an
a deal.
abomination
It's
as well.
It's just extra bureaucracy.
You'll be hard pressed to find a long term, I'm going to say a teacher that's been teaching for 25 years, 20 years, hard pressed to find one that thinks our system right now is anything more than laughable.
I mean, even at the state level, I think, and because of the price of everything and the mother and father both having to work, and that's, back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
only the father worked, I mean, when Garland and I grew up, most of the time it's like just the father worked and mother stayed home. My mother
The family unit.
then went off and
Was
she was a
working.
teacher. That was her job. But then we went to public school, but homeschooling and then giving vouchers. Hey, here's for the books. Here's for the whatever you need. Let the,
Well, that's why school choice is so important. Everybody should support it. That money should follow the student. So if that student wants to go to a pod with 5 or 6 other kids and they all chip in their money to pay, good. If they want to go to a bigger public school type system that's offered for people who don't really have the time to care much at all, great. If the mothers... Think about it, if you have 4 children and that $17,000 a year is going to you 4 times instead of to the school 4 times, well, now you don't have to have a job. You can stay at home, be a mom. You can educate all 4 of your children the way they should be educated. You can spend time with them. You can make sure they're going places. If you're going to tax us, and let the money go to the student and let the parent decide. Will everybody make the right choice? No. But who's going to make the wrong choice? The government, because they've done it time and time again. So if somebody out there takes advantage of the system or screws it up, then that's their thing. We're not here to save everybody. We can't. And we got to get away from that mentality in the first place. Not everybody's salvageable. Not everybody's savable.
If the people put the money in, they should get the shot.
Absolutely.
right. And then when you say like the mother, I mean, one mother doesn't even have to be dedicated to it. It can be like a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, you teach this day, you teach that
It's
day.
wonderful.
They can, if
Yeah, the
you've got
pod.
5 different mothers, I mean, they only have to do 1 day a week.
Yeah, and they don't even have to do that. You could really knock it down to 3 days because a homeschool kid is probably doing more in 2.5 or 3 hours than a kid going to a regular school is in an entire
I mean,
week. So really,
we
you don't
know
need to
that
go all
people
5
have
days.
better ideas than the government telling you what to do.
Every single time.
Well, speaking of that, because I know one big thing we're going to talk about and how it affects Appalachia is the election. Before we do that, though, I do want to talk about one thing. It's kind of related. And I know we've touched on this quite a bit over the spaces the past couple of weeks, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But we had a few more revelations come out over the past week. But, while we were kind of on a hiatus, Hurricane Helene came through and just devastated western North Carolina, East Tennessee.
And to a certain extent, a small part of Southern
Virginia. Damascus, Virginia got hit pretty hard. The roads on 58 was completely destroyed down there. I think the death toll, though, and the devastation, I'm not sure if anybody died in Virginia. It might have only been one or two, I think. And actually, one was in Tazewell, which makes no sense. It was probably a tree. So I think, the major devastation, North Carolina and Tennessee, what a complete and utter waste of taxpayer dollars to prop up this FEMA organization. I know that, you get these people, oh, they're doing great. They're there. They are there. They're in Asheville and they're in Boone. And then they send a couple of suits out to every single small town and they sit off in the corner somewhere and all they're doing is signing paperwork. FEMA, what they should be is an organization that has contacts all around this country. That way, the second a disaster happens, you're calling up your electricians, you're calling up your linemen, you're calling up your farmers, you're calling up your truck drivers, you're calling up whatever military divisions that need to be ready to go for things like this for search and rescue. And the second those rivers stop rising, everybody is in there and they are rocking and rolling. That's what FEMA should be. Instead, they're just there collecting a paycheck and deciding whether somebody gets 750 measly. They're not picking up a chainsaw. They're not on an excavator. They're not doing a damn thing. So why in the hell are they there? We've shown.
Well, actually, what they're doing that's come out, I think this last week, is that they are selectively figuring out who needs the assistance, and that's now come out. And anyone who had a Trump sign in their yard was overlooked.
Well, that was down in Florida, and apparently the woman has been fired. I made a big post about that on X. But still, it should lead some credence and some legitimacy to the people of North Carolina who are having their problems and complaints about FEMA. It's going on down there. You think it's not going on up there? It's the same organization that decides that they are going to choose who gets help based on DEI standards and equity and stuff. Well, they're going to go in and, well, if we're going to save somebody, shouldn't we consider first maybe if that person's been oppressed a little bit longer than the other? What fucking madness is that? Sorry for my language. But people need to be rescued. The rest of it matters. Nobody cares what color you are. Nobody cares if you want to hold one in your mouth till the swelling goes down or not. Nobody cares what religion you are. If people need to be saved, none of that matters. You save people. It's happened down in East Tennessee. I'm going to go on a rant here for a second. Stay with me. Down in East Tennessee, I wish I could remember the guy's name. I'll pull it up. Maybe I'll share the video here shortly. He had a big, massive business down there near Irwin, Tennessee. The flood came through, took out everything. I mean, he had dump trucks, excavators, that whole 9 yards, that kind of guy. He had a couple of pieces of equipment that didn't get ravaged because they were at a job site somewhere else. It wasn't. So what does he do? He's lost everything. He knows he doesn't have the funds. He can't go ask for loans. The government's not going to help him. What does he do? He goes and jumps in his equipment and starts clearing roads. And he just starts doing what he can do. And then...
What about the miners that came in and reconstructed
this
that
was
road
in the
North
very
Carolina?
beginning. This was in the very beginning. The miners just left a couple. This was in the very beginning. And, and basically he's there clearing roads, and the Tennessee Department of Transportation is there, and they're basically telling him that he's got to stop clearing the roads. And the reason they're telling him that is because FEMA or some government agency is behind them saying, you tell him to stop clearing those roads or I'm not giving you that money anymore. Now, it's one of those moments that you turn around and I can't say it because too many people listen to this show now, but you make sure that FEMA individual knows that if you want to withhold money at a later date, you be the one to explain that to people in front of God and everybody else. But while this moment is going on, we're clearing these roads and we're saving these people. End of story.
Yeah.
You say that, and that's funny because I know a person who got their truck out, clear snow on the road in a snowstorm, and was told that's illegal.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just helping out the neighbors to get to the main highway. Oh, no, that's illegal. The state has to do it.
Well, Billy, did you hear that lady from FEMA who got fired actually said that it was systemic, that she was taught to do that or told by her superiors to do that?
That's the correct use of the word systemic.
Yes.
That actually applies.
I did not see that. So, but I'm not surprised.
Exactly. It's what you were saying, that you can't believe it would happen down there and not in North Carolina.
Because let's be honest, no person that's needing a good job with the federal government making good benefits is going to make that decision on their own at that level.
That's right.
That came from somewhere above.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's what she said.
the funny part is the government's coming in, and everything that you said or I said, this and that, these are neighbors helping neighbors. And the government comes in and says, no, stop, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
No,
They should wipe out the whole organization.
no,
I mean,
no different than a neighbor selling milk to a
Right.
neighbor.
Same thing.
Yep.
They have no business.
FEMA
talking
should
about
not
that.
exist.
Mm-hmm.
No,
The-
especially
and,
given
you know,
what's happened.
They're
We can make a
people
list
take
and
care of
submit
each
it.
other.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't that been proven?
Now,
Yep.
let's make amends for that. So when the hurricane happened, clearly me and Joel have enough equipment and tractor trailers. We could have went down there, loaded up dozers, went down there and done whatever we wanted. So we looked into it. Cover our costs.
Mhm.
Can we get how do we get our costs covered? We'll go down there just like them miners from West Virginia. Now, I mean, I don't have the money. If I had Garland's money, I'd go down there and work for weeks and not worry about getting paid.
I'm Garland on the mic anyway. We got an extra one.
So-
We hold him out for some reason, Amos?
Yeah, you never know what's coming out of his mouth.
Well,
So you have FEMA show up. I mean, all they do is slow every process down because it all has to be run through them. They show up at a collection site.
It's a control issue.
It is.
Yes, it is.
So that's
by
ego.
design.
That's
By
ego.
It's by design.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
The Department of Interior is more than capable with a few brain cells to say, hey, these guys have proof that they went down there and did this and this and this. Dude, we could do the stuff for a quarter of the cost of what this dumb crap is. I mean, it is absolutely
It's gross inefficiency.
well, I mean, this is all
Right.
just this,
insane. No, it's just
well,
it's
look, all of
blowing
this
money.
all this right here as well, though, is still much after the fact. Let's get to the fact and to the points to where people were still missing. People were still in mudslides. People were still in their homes, and the lack of urgency to get up there, and people died because not because of issues from the storm. I guess you can attribute to that ultimately, but it's because nobody got to them in time. They could have been saved. Why in the world is it the Tennessee National Guard was activated just 2 days prior to go support what Israel, Ukraine, or whatever it is, and they should have been on the ground in their search and rescue. You were halfway in between, essentially, the 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne in Clarksville, Tennessee, and
Stand down.
and
Mm-hmm.
stand down orders. Can't even leave. You have to take leave and paid vacation, even go help search for people
That's
that
your
might be in your
family.
family. Like these people are highly trained. They're highly trained for these atmospheres, ranger training. They go through the mountains. They know what they're doing. Why aren't these people in here in Black Hawks and Chinooks going and searching everywhere? It should be a coordinated event. That's why we have a military. That's why we should have a military, is for moments like this. Instead, people died on the freaking mountaintops. People are still missing, and they're not going to find thousands of them. They're buried in so much mud and muck that the land has them now.
But also consider the fact that North Carolina was governed by a progressive governor.
Sure.
And the governor controls an immense amount of power
All of it.
within the state. And
It's up to the governor to decide whether the federal government can come in or not.
very much so.
Well, and everything that all of y'all are talking about right now is it's a perfect segue into our next topic, which is the election result, because all of those reasons are why Trump won this election.
Mm-hmm.
People's distrust with the federal government and getting to see it in their face and seeing people, abandoned right in front of them, right before the election. So,
Well, you talk about Obama, or actually not even Obama, Trump being the first social media president really to take full advantage of it. This was another big social media election in a different way. Like in 2016, it was the meme war. I don't really know what 2020 was defined by. I think this election was divided by Instagram Reels, TikTok Reels,
15 million
X.
votes.
X was the major factor in it because people were actually getting information out there that wasn't being suppressed. It was the only outlet doing it, but they were seeing record numbers. People were getting up-to-date information. People were seeing, people FEMA screwing people over in North Carolina. They were seeing the disasters. They were seeing, and all these things. I mean, this is what I think swayed the election. Like you said, is just people like us out there sharing these videos where hundreds of thousands of people can see them, and other people sharing them, people actually getting out there on the ground and recording them and sending them back. This is what changed it this go round.
And
People saw
that keeps
this.
the legacy media
Mm-hmm.
from being able to hold the narrative. Because people, everybody has a smartphone, an Apple, everybody has a smartphone. And they were able to see stuff that was not what they were seeing on the TV screen. And you have, I got a Jamaican guy that, rent from me.
Dennis.
Love Dennis, man. And
I'm trying to find Dennis.
Countryman Jamaican food truck, man. If you ever see that truck, you can't miss it.
Well, that's good. I'm in Floyd Thursdays and Fridays. Come see me, Dennis.
He's up there all the time.
The Express Mart, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Best Caribbean food you'll ever eat.
I know.
One of his buddies came up, and I called Simon Lewis the next morning. One of his good friends is a Uber in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up. He was up at the wood shop. What a culture shock must have been.
I bet.
And we was talking about, this was, a month before the election, a few weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks easy.
And, was talking about the election and stuff. And I was like, you live in Atlanta. What are you seeing?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, man, you got to look long and hard to find a hair sign.
How about that?
He was like, everybody's
in
done
Atlanta.
with this. In Atlanta. He was like, everybody's done with this.
Ooh.
He was like, even during 2020, Joe Biden in the ghettos, you still Biden signs,
Mm-hmm.
But they realized, this time, finally,
They got exposed.
they finally realized that all the Democrats, they're basically think we're on a modern day plantation. They've got, they got all the black people in, these, government housing and stuff, and they're expecting and finally enough's enough.
Well, this vote was more than just a trope, vote between Trump and Harris. This was a referendum on which direction people wanted this country to go. And clearly they don't want it to go down this woke, ideological bullshit path. The question is does the establishment in the Democrat Party, do the higher ups, they sit there and say, all right, we've got to move back towards the middle a little bit to get this thing rolling again?
They're not doing that at all.
Or do they ride the wave, and is this going to get worse the next 4 years?
Absolutely going to double down. They can't go back at this point. When
No.
you start calling the other side Hitler, where are you going to go from there?
Nowhere.
You can't moderate. You can't moderate from that.
So what's the next move? What happens? We just have this turmoil in this country for the next 100 years before these people?
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a
40.
long term of Trump. You're going to have 4 years of Trump, and then one of his acolytes are going to come in next, unless the Democrats figure out something different, because the tide has shifted completely. Now, that might shift in 2 years, the midterms,
in 4 years, if it goes good under his term and he saves money, starts getting the debt down.
Well, he did the last 4 years.
Well, it could be another
Yeah,
12
but the
years of
COVID
goodness.
got him.
But I see
They signed off on $1 trillion omnibus spending bills.
I see it's more of the Democrats have nobody. Who on earth do they have to put up there?
Their golden boy is Gavin Newsom, and all anybody's going to do is say, look at California. Is that really what you
Progressivism
want for the
is
entire
dead.
10
country?
million moved out in the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what I struggle with here in this narrative is that we're saying that the Democratic Party has been demonized. No, the Democratic Party's been taken over by the progressives and that Marxist ideology. And thank the Lord, I think the American populace has swung around and said, oh no, this is not for us. Now, they've put all their eggs in one basket: progressivism, wokeism, all that bullshit. And their pants are down. Now, let's bury this, right?
Yep.
Let's stop this shit, because the mandate's been pretty clear from what I can gather from the populace. And it's not anti-Democrat. I mean, I think a Democrat could be the old blue dog Democrat, has got a lot to offer. But when it comes to that progressive angle, which is what we have with the political system and the Democratic Party that's been taken over by this bunch of raving lunatics.
Democratic Party hadn't existed since 1963. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. Now, what if the Democratic Party is smart? And I, they're not stupid folks. They spend poorly. You don't put $1 billion in a campaign and still end up with 20 million in debt.
Can we miss
If they do go back, they've got to go back to the democratic principles of 63, and then
that's Republican Party now.
There we go. So
that's where it's at.
Yeah. So that's what they've got to do. They can't, if they double down, they're done.
Oh.
They're done.
Well, everybody's gotten tired of none of us want to see our girls having to change clothes and shower with guys.
Yeah,
that's not acceptable.
Get beaten the shit out of by a guy in a boxing ring.
As a farmer, it's pretty obvious, pretty quick, whether there's a male or a female born.
Yeah,
and
well, we're tired of participating in their delusions. But you got to ask yourself how we got here in the first place. And honestly, how we
by
got
being quiet.
Well, no, how we got to this moment in time is because honestly, the liberals won. The liberals won back in the mid 20 teens. The liberals won. They got gay, they got gay marriage. They pretty much got us moving towards a green energy kind of deal, blah, blah, blah. They got us basically to where every liberal would wet dream back in the 90s. We got there about 2013, 2012, whatever in that time frame. What happened then? Well, you can't go away. We've got all this money coming in front of all these organizations to fight this stuff, to fight for gay rights. Well, now what do? Well, now we got to go to transgenders because we don't have gay rights to fight. You know what I mean? Like, these people are going to continuously try and find a battle that's going to rattle cages and is going to draw us down to a halt through, economic recovery time and time. You see it with the PETA organizations, you see it with the environmental organizations, the abortion, the gay right, everything. They always constantly trying to find a fight. And that is where the issue is. So how do we get to the point to where, look, you got what you wanted, enough's enough, because they're never going to stop fighting. Those paychecks are coming in because people are going to keep giving them money.
Progressives, by definition, don't stop.
No,
they're
absolute.
By the very definition of the word.
They're absolute radicals.
They just do.
But that backs up way further than what you said, 2012. I'll give them credit where credit's due. They were smart enough back in the...
They played a long game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. John Mark. You control the education system, number one. And that started in the 70s. And once you create that narrative and every person that's going to school to be a teacher is taught that you have to respect the feelings
indoctrinate.
Right. So then it goes from you got to respect the rights of gay people, of this and this, to the point where you put litter boxes in high schools by now. For the
slippery slope is not a fallacy.
So it goes from, but once you control the education system, you control it all.
Yeah.
Well, they figured that out a long time ago. And
that's right. And that's how we got here.
Well, they figured that out long before the Board of Education was ever created, though. I mean, who was it? It was Rockefeller figured that out back in the, early 1900s when he took the Prussian school system, basically, from old Germany, and he implemented in the United States because he wanted people to be good factory workers. So if you go to a public school system and you got the seats and you go to lines everywhere and you have the cafeterias, you know what I mean? I mean, Rockefeller set it into motion. The Board of Education was just given the trajectory of our government. It was just an inevitable.
Well, the Board of Education took what private business people had done. Henry Ford, look, I'll build encampment, put everybody in apartments. They'll work for me at a lower cost because I'm housing them. Rockefeller did the same. The federal government just took that and ran with it.
See, I don't understand. Like you said, oh, yeah, we're going to put litter boxes, let people dress like cats. Transgender thing. It's like, what the hell? What is the benefit for the country? Because I thought we were all here to make money. So how are these people that you're trying to indoctrinate good for society?
Well, they're good. They're not good for society, but they're good for the upper class, and they're good for a vote because what they do is eventually they had to get away from the racism stuff. I was talking to somebody about this earlier this week. Back in the 90s, growing up here, every kid's house you would go to would have a Michael Jordan poster or a Bo Jackson or a Michael Jackson or a Magic Johnson. Like Tiger Woods came around in the early 2000s, broke the barrier in golf. Look, we were over racism. We were done with it. We'd gotten to the point now it's like, all right, look, either you're a piece of shit or not. You could be a piece of shit, black, white, doesn't matter. Good people, bad people, that's what it's about. So then what happened? Well, now you have to create more victims. Now you have to find other ways to divide people.
And you have division.
To get, the old form of division was all the racial nonsense. And then in 2009, we all came together, Tea Party movement, and the Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, they all came together at the same time and said, we're on the right, we're on the left, and we're tired of the 1% and the bankers getting bailed out for screwing up and taking our money. Then all of a sudden, identity politics comes into play. All of a sudden, racism and transgender, all these terms, these buzzwords go from being used about 4 times a year to 1,200 times a year in all your major publications.
I'm sick of it.
So what are we doing now? We're sitting there and looking at this dipshit.
That showed.
We're sitting here looking at this dipshit on TikTok, twirling around in a bunny outfit, making stupid noises instead of getting pissed off at our government. That's what we're doing. We're sitting around scrolling these social media pages all day, and we're sitting there watching videos, and we're getting pissed off at them, not actually doing anything about it and not changing anything about it, but they are there to piss us off, to make us find ways we can squash them and get them off of our social media instead of actually holding the people accountable who need to be held accountable.
But by the Department of Education, if I identify as a cat and you're in class and you're asked a question and your answer is meow, that's acceptable. I have to accept that as a teacher because I understand that you identify as a cat.
Well, that's over now.
I work for a large corporation and I have to take DEI classes. I'm like,
Dale Earnhardt Incorporated.
with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then I'm forced to be involved with, they have multiple groups that they make, and I'm forced to be involved if I ever want to get a raise or if I ever want profit sharing at the end of the year. I have to
Carrot and stick.
get these certain goals. Well, I ain't going to say who I work for because I'm quitting any goddamn way because it sucks so bad. This is my last couple months.
Those DEI classes must be awful.
But yeah, but I know a lot of other large corporations do the same thing. I talked to some of my friends in industry and they're in other corporations, and the same thing. I need help, and I'm actually producing a product for this company, and they're like, well, our budget's tight. But you hired a DEI manager, and he has like 4 people working for him.
Diversity
And what the
consultants.
hell are you doing? You're going around telling everybody, well, just accept all these.
That's that.
To me, freaks of nature.
That's that HR department at work.
Well, real
and that's
quick,
the most
I just want
hated department in any corporate position.
for one, a lot of these companies are now acting away from their DEI implementation. They're going away from it because they see the writing on the wall. I mean, it's the tide is turning. But just before we jump to our next topic, though, I did want to ask you, since you are in the industry you are in, it has taken a massive hit in the public eye in the past year, you know, with faulty equipment and with emergency landings and all kinds. I mean, is there legitimate reason for concern there, or are these things that happen as frequently as they've been portrayed to happen? They're just using it to kind of scare us a little bit.
Well, I think they do hire people that aren't qualified just to get the numbers right. You know,
You can't have that.
Especially
I
not in that industry.
care.
Yep.
I don't care if you're a woman, man, black, white, tall, straight. It
Right.
does not make a difference. As
And
long as you
that's-
can fly that plane and land it, great. But if you were hired because you were a certain color and you got to fit a quota,
Even
I don't want you
maintenance
flying my
and
damn
everything else.
plane.
Well, not just pilots, but everything else.
Oh, yeah.
The maintenance is just as important.
Oh, yeah.
And again,
Yep.
it's qualifications. You need to be qualified just because you're whatever and fit the bill. I mean, the same reason Kamala got to be vice president.
Well, and that insanity is
I
why they
marked
lost the election.
boxes.
Well,
That's
and,
why they
and, and
lost.
like for firefighters.
But that's why quality's going down.
Oh, sure.
Well, it doesn't show up in all the industry, but look at Boeing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a disaster.
And that's the reason. That's the reason.
yeah,
for
what do you want? I mean,
And
honestly,
they have a big DEI program.
Mhm.
Well, I
They
mean,
brag
like,
about it.
you know, and like I said, I brought up firefighters. It gets down to that level. Like if you are in a burning house, I don't care how progressive you are and how many pronouns you have in your bio and how many different color your freaking hair is and how many piercings you got. If your house is on fire and you value living, who do you want busting into that door as a firefighter? That 6'2", 260-pound freaking beast of a man, or do you want the DEI hire who's a 5'2" Latina woman who got hired on because she passed it? You know what I mean? Like, who do you want coming through that door? Honestly,
I think that bleeds over because I listen to a lot of other podcasts and with military individuals, and they're like the same thing. I don't give a shit what you are. If I get shot, can you pick me up and carry me the hell out of here?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
that's-
another military podcast you can start listening to because we are veteran operated, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know.
He's a vet. But, and that's right. I mean, my wife sees it in her line of work.
My wife sees it in her line of work.
And I think there's been a giant disservice to all of us.
Sure it is.
You know, if you're a 5'1", 89-pound female that is the baddest pilot in the world, I want you flying that plane. You know, I want to see, you know, everybody has their niche.
We were founded on a meritocracy, and that's how we got where we are. Why would we change those rules now? We shouldn't.
Right. And I mean, we were just talking about big, strong, qualified, but intelligence too. I mean,
absolutely.
You need the intelligence to do a job that requires that. You know, you don't want somebody running the books that doesn't know what the hell they're doing, and that's how we end up broke and wasting money on all these things because
Well, that's how you
I
have people-
have an idea, but I'm not really qualified, and then here's FEMA wasting money on this, the Department of Education wasting money on this. It's like, who the hell did you hire to run it? I mean, if they were qualified and doing it right, we wouldn't have these problems. But
And that's my hope with Trump this go around. I mean, I really want, in all honesty, probably 3/4 of our federal government gone. They don't need to be there. You know, the regulations, they have to go. You know, the Bureau of Land Management, you know, that is, I mean, all of this random noise has to go.
yeah,
it has
because
nothing-
people getting comfortable in a job. You know, you get so many people up there and they're just jockeying around to keep their job. They don't really even care what's going on. It's like, I got a comfortable job and I need that paycheck.
I got my
And
benefits.
That
That's
is
where we're
what,
at.
if anybody hadn't seen it, we shared it on X. But you can go back and look it up. James O'Keefe had a whistleblower come out from FEMA last week. Phenomenal video. And basically that's what she said. A lot of these FEMA people are just sitting around collecting a paycheck, bragging about their house they're getting in the islands somewhere for all the overtime they've been getting. And she was like, I just couldn't, with my conscience, couldn't sit back and continue to watch this happen while people were being left to dry in North Carolina. She's like, and that's what she said. So people are just around collecting a paycheck. The government is 3 million employees, 3.5 million employees at this point in time. They want you to feel bad for those people, and they tug on your heartstrings. Well, if the government gets cut, all these people going to be unemployed. Welcome to 2020 COVID, asshole.
Yeah.
Welcome to every other recession we've ever had in this country. It's time for y'all to get off of your ivory towers and feel it like the rest of us. And you know why you're so scared and why you want to hold on to it so bad? Because you know deep down, not even deep down, surface level, you can't compete in the free market. That's why you went to the government sector in the first place. You cannot compete. You can't come down here and you can't go toe-to-toe with Amos. You can't go toe-to-toe with Chip. You know, PBS, you can't go toe-to-toe with the Appalachian podcast. Give me the money that they give you and see where we go and see where you go. I'm just saying, they can't compete. That's why they're going to hold on for dear life and they're going to fight for dear life because that's a big paycheck. I mean, what most government employees, they are government employees, if not just for the paycheck, it's for the fact that they get good benefits on top of it. Benefits that we are paying for and we are expected to see a return on, and we see jack effing shit.
And
You
we're
know,
abused by, because most of the federal employees live in Northern Virginia.
not most of them,
And,
no.
But
A big percentage of them, but you talk, they're all over the country.
the same thing, but you cut them all loose and reality will strike them upside the head. And I'll tell you what, they will survive. They will have to learn how we learn to get a job. They'll live a lot lower than what they're living now, but they
Maybe
will
not.
survive.
not necessarily.
Some of them
see what
might
happens.
not, but
I mean, I'm a contractor. 2009 hit me. I went from owning 3 houses to living with my girlfriend in 2009. I didn't have nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Every bank around me was like, man, build spec houses. We'll loan you the money. You sell them. We'll split the profit. Dude, it was beautiful until it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who got their money?
The bank.
The bank.
you sure you just didn't want to move in with your girlfriend?
Go on and take him home. But that's the difference. On a private level, on a business level, you know, you make a bad decision or even a decision you think's a good decision, don't pan out. It's your ass.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it has to.
On the government level, you make a bad decision, nothing happens.
Nobody's getting fired nowadays.
No.
Oh, hell no.
That's the name of the game. Is how can you stay in and collect your check?
I mean, you know, that person that got caught with that text message from FEMA, Oh, she got fired. Hell no, that ain't good enough.
Oh, that goes way higher up. Joe.
Damn
She
right.
needs to have her nursing license revoked. She's a registered nurse. She needs to have criminal charges brought upon her for fraud, conspiracy, all kinds of stuff. It's in Florida, DeSantis, make examples out of these people like
That's
they
why
did
I
the
like it
J6 people. You know what I mean? Like, but they're actually committing crimes. That's the thing. You're not making an example. You're just abiding by justice. They make example out of J6 because they say make an example because they didn't do anything wrong. But these people, they're committing criminal acts. But obviously they know they can get away with it. So when I say make an example, I'm just saying do your fucking jobs and prosecute them. Prosecute that woman.
But they're doing a job that shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
That job should never exist.
That's right.
You should have especially like on the emergency level, FEMA don't need to exist. On a state level, you can take care of state by state level.
Bet, I don't know numbers, but you see all these churches and religious institutions with truckloads of food, help, running down there with chainsaws. I'm just guessing, but I'll bet they did more than FEMA did.
You don't need a
even
guess.
close.
No, FEMA did nothing. I bet FEMA didn't pull out the first chainsaw.
That hurricane hit Thursday, Friday that week. NASCAR race was in Las Vegas that Sunday. All them teams, Rick Kendrick, Joe Gibbs, all of them have their own helicopters, own airplanes. Them drivers and them crews flew from Vegas to Charlotte, landed. Them private helicopters picked them boys up, their drivers, their crews, took them to their race shops. And I mean, I know this. Rick Hendricks, Joe Gibbs, all of them boys, them helicopters set down. They already had supplies waiting at them race shops. They loaded them helicopters full of supplies and sent them pilots to North Carolina. Because, all them boys are from North Carolina.
Yeah.
Sent all that stuff to West North Carolina. Now, FEMA that ain't nothing to do with FEMA. Them boys ain't getting repaid.
That's what I'm saying. Private industry.
Jo-
People taking care of people.
Greg Biffle owns his own. Them boys were all flying their own helicopters out there, dropping that stuff off. And the FAA told them, unless you know who your contact is on the ground, you're not allowed to set that bird down. So you're flying over a mountain range and you see a family out in a field. Unless you know their name and you can radio their name in, you can't set that bird down because you don't know your contact on the ground.
That's Jim Bob. I knew him for years.
I'd be making up some names.
That's one of those moments you
Jim
tell.
Bob.
Yeah, and that is where you get with federal government.
Because
The
they
less,
just
the
want
better.
control, and that's it. They just want to control the situation and say, hey, we were in charge here. We did this because they have there is no accountability. We got off on a FEMA tangent. What's next on our PowerPoint here, Chip and Simon?
Well, I guess we're still talking about the election. We kind of mixed in there a little bit. Did we talk about him winning the popular vote, though, that it was a clean sweep?
Yeah, the popular vote for Trump is massive. That hasn't been seen since, 2004?
2000, George Bush.
Was it 2002? Anyway, it's been a while.
It might have been 2004 because of 9/11.
But for him to get the clean sweep, in my mind, is the country has spoken, right? It's spoken. Now, I hate to tell you, but there's going to be some woke people out there that just don't get it. The country's spoken. Shut the fuck up.
And we've
Right?
seen it online with the videos and the people who just filming
Cutting their
themselves,
hair off.
cutting
I'm
their
not going
hair.
to have
Yep.
sex with my husband for 4 years. Well, most of the videos I've seen of that, I can't imagine anybody having sex with him for the last 4 years.
No, all they're
either.
doing is doing exactly what conservatives are asking them to do, is to be celibate and not put your body
Please
out
don't-
there.
please don't
They're like,
breed.
you know what we're going to do? We're going to own the conservatives by doing exactly what they want us to do.
Okay,
Please don't breed.
it worked.
That's okay, because when you do breed, you use abortion as a contraception.
Mm-hmm.
That's a stroke of genius, right? So you can quit that bloody line of argument.
Well, I think the popular vote's huge because,
Popular
like I
is
said
massive.
earlier, it's a referendum on what direction people in this country want to go. And obviously, people want to go in a direction of based. Donald Trump isn't a Republican. He's not a Democrat. Donald Trump doesn't represent the left or the right. He represents the American worker, the American that just wants to have things how they were 30 years ago. Pull the wool over our eyes 70% of the time, but don't F us in the ass while you're doing it. Let us have our manufacturing here. Let us have good lives and everybody's happy. You can still do your dirty deeds behind closed doors outdoors. You know what? I would give anything to go back to what, the ignorant bliss of it was 30 years ago, and everybody was making a ton of money, So, so that's where we're at.
That's how they got their money.
So, what does Donald Trump's election do for Appalachia? Do we see a massive influx of coal out of West Virginia? Is that something that we can look forward to? How about steel up in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh? I mean, he's been threatening these tariffs. He wants the steel industry to come back here, and rightfully so.
The tariffs, particularly when you regard tariffs,
that's a big whole other conversation.
Imposed on China, and rightly so, is going to bring a lot of manufacturing back here. And it isn't just the manufacturing of steel or cars or whatever. Let's get our manufacturing back with medicines, right?
That can come in Appalachia plain.
Yeah, absolutely, it can. Easily. We have the what's the business park up there on
Summit
220
View.
Summit View. That now is the biggest pad, right, in Virginia, set up. Why aren't we talking about getting pharmaceutical companies, as much as I despise them?
We probably will be in a few months.
I hope so.
They need to be bringing that manufacturing into these sort of business parks. Where's the county when they're doing this? Oh, but my hands are held by the state. I don't give a shit where your hands are held. Make it happen. We need people that are people of action, right? Sorting this shit out. Get manufacturing back here in any way, shape, or form and get it out of China. You sold your soul to the devil and you've paid the price. Now it's time to take it back.
Well, loosening the regulations will definitely help quite a bit. And for anybody that has any kind of romantic dreams about West Virginia becoming what it once was, it's never going to be like that again, mainly because you don't need the population. You used to need that many people in those towns to be able to go into the coal mines. Now with technology and stuff, and the fact that people can drive 20 or 30 minutes comfortably to get to work, to get to the coal mines, they're not going to have the need for coal camps. But that's not to say that those areas can't be reclaimed. We can still use, get what we can out to make a profit out of it, where people still have jobs, and make sure we're focusing on getting in there and keeping the areas clean, keeping the rivers clean, and tourism. Now that people have expendable income, they want to go out there and buy side-by-sides. They're going to want to go ride the Hatfield and McCoy trails. And you put up music venues, and every other weekend you have festivals down there where different acts come in, and different people can come every weekend with their side-by-sides and ride the trails and hunt and fish. Like tourism, the beauty of Appalachia, that's one thing I think, I'm hoping that this administration can rejuvenate.
Well, agriculture is where Appalachia really is the forefront.
Well, our part of Appalachia.
Yeah. Appalachia, the brains. There's a lot of brains have come out of these mountains.
Well, and you gotta give a shout out in the election to West Virginia because they were completely red. Every county in the state was red,
and Oklahoma.
And Oklahoma too. So those two at least got it right.
Well, see, agriculture too. We've been selling out for years to other countries, and paying farmland not to grow. It's like, come on, let's grow it in our own country. Let's make sure it's not all this,
but let's grow it ethically as well. Let's
GMO
not have GMO. I mean, we're now going to see a resurgence, and there's a double-edged sword to this, because now that if RFK does get in with health and so forth,
I hope he does.
Me too.
And who's the guy in agriculture? We may get Thomas Massey in agriculture. That would be huge. But we're going to see what we're going to see now is we're going to break this dichotomy of cheap food, because that unfortunately is what has got us addicted to poison food.
I'd rather pay more and stay healthy.
We're going to have to accept
you won't
that.
pay more once we end all the bureaucratic nonsense and red tape. You won't pay more. It'll be, in fact, cheaper. There's no reason all of Franklin County should not be able to feed all of Franklin County. We got enough dairy farms. We got enough cattle here. We got enough chickens. And once we start bringing those things back, every grocery store here should have nothing but local meat in it.
Well, it's already here. But you can't sell it.
It's coming. Yeah. And
Trump wanted to do that the first go around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And got fought.
Well, those barriers are going to get broken down. But what you're going to see when those barriers are broken down is that the farmers have then got to readjust in how they deal with their land management, and the land management is going to cause some pretty increased costs in how they now manage their crop non-GMO, it's going to see a cost increase. But you know
On
what?
the farmer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And but
I don't think so.
we have to get back to healthy food.
But even if there
Just
is a cost,
It's going to cost a little more.
incremental
We need to be
increase in
ready
the
for that.
beginning, but it'll eventually go back down.
but even if there is a cost, again, if you reallocate stuff like we got rid of the Department of Education, we got rid of FEMA, we this and that, start investing in our own country.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
invest in, go ahead and help these farmers start growing good crops, good healthy
But they don't need
crops.
to help the farmer. Farmers don't need help.
I'm just saying
Farmers
if they do.
need
They need non-intervention.
cut the regulation.
Yeah, right. Yep. They need to leave us alone. on this
I
part.
can make 10 times the money I'm making right now on my beef farm
Mhm.
if you let me sell meat
Mhm.
to people I trust.
Mhm.
You know, we have all these.
And people that trust you.
Yeah, we have all these
That's a
you know,
relationship we've got to get back.
McDonald's burger, you know, all that, you know, all these outbreaks of stuff. That does not happen on a local level.
What happens at major manufacturing farms, or what do they call
Where
it?
things get over.
Well, you go to Mexico, you're picking all this stuff off of, you know, you jack a hose in the back of that tractor trailer and you load that thing full of nitrogen to make it stay pretty. You run it into America, and that's worth way more. You're allowed to do that and bring it up to Franklin County and sell it to all the stores. But I'm not allowed to
Sell to my neighbors in my community.
right
Right, and you didn't wax your stuff or dye your food
or spray it
anything.
so it all comes ripe
Right.
at the same time.
And unnecessary steroids and hormones.
Yeah,
you know.
farmers
that
farmers
game's gonna
don't
change.
need assistance.
And that's their problem with it.
And
Yep.
but that threatens all the pharmaceutical companies because then we'd all be healthy.
you know, we
Monsanto's is in big shit.
we
right
have
now.
giant government programs for crop insurance. So if my crop don't yield what it should, I get a check from the federal government. I don't. I refuse. So there's farmers that don't even pick their crops because their crop insurance check
Yep.
will be more
If they do that.
than if they sold the product.
Yeah, that's wrong.
That's got to go.
Well, there's a bunch of congressmen and senators that buy all this land out west and don't grow a thing on it, but they're getting paid
Because they're a farmer.
because they're a farmer.
They're the
And
first
they're
one that
like,
kn-
well, I own now. This is just investment land. I'm like, how crooked is that?
But if you're in Congress and you know you're in Congress, you're a lawyer, you know how the laws are wrote, you are the first one in line to get that government check. So why wouldn't every congressman and and
Well, that's
senator have
why-
a farm?
Again, we got to get rid of most of them.
Yeah.
We gotta get rid
Start
of the
over.
self-interest. You got to get rid of the self-interest, no matter who it is.
What's our next bullet point, Simon?
Well, I mean, we've gone through the clean sweep, which I thought was joyous.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to the clean sweep, now you've got Schumer, who's playing a little game of shenanigans with the Pennsylvania vote. That I know I've jumped now, but we're kind of smoothing through that.
But that was his buddy in Pennsylvania that lost.
And there you go. There
So-
you go.
Just to be a dick, I'm not going to let this guy in.
But how can this guy represent himself as being a representative for the American population, the voting citizen, you know, and then come out with basically he's being obstructive, and it's just shenanigans. Yeah, these people have got to stop representing us
Well, Schumer
because
only,
they don't.
and he only has power for what, a couple more months. I mean, he's not going to be the majority anymore here. When,
Yeah, but now we got 2 months to cause maximum mayhem.
oh, and
Yeah.
they will. You can expect that.
I've read stories where they're trying to, they call it Trump proofing, but they're trying to block and push so much crap through. And this should be illegal at that level. It's like if it's just a revenge tactic because you're trying to impede the next guy coming in, it's like, come on.
Well, and I think you've got a split administration. It seems you've got like Biden, who really doesn't mind Trump turning everything over and working with him. And then you've got Kamala, who's the exact opposite.
Well, Biden
I mean-
brain dead. He don't mind it. He's not sure where he's at when he wakes up in the morning.
Just, and that's sadly true.
Mhm.
This country has not had a leader in 4 years.
Yep.
We have not had a leader in 4 years.
Clearly.
And everybody else knows it.
Look at everything.
And who's behind it that allowed this to go on? You know,
Obama?
who's actually? Yeah, you wonder
yeah.
because you always see them clips. Oh yeah, if I had an earpiece and a sucker out there, and it's
I'd
like,
sit in my basement and be president.
yeah, I wonder if he's not really doing that.
But even Obama isn't the person pulling the strings ultimately. I mean, even Obama, somebody is telling him what to do. I mean, he's just a community organizer at some point in time.
He never
Obama
had a
is
job.
who he is because somebody allowed him to be who he is. You know what I mean?
I
Obviously,
think the CIA is up on a lot of.
well, obviously, you know, because they control the narrative for the most part.
this is
but who controls the CIA? I mean, which BlackRock? You know, all these,
Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
you know, yeah.
I mean, this corporate entity that we have, and there's probably four companies that really control and the puppeteers. We've got to look into them. You know, that is the deep state.
Well, I think it boils down. You have, and at the end of the day, Bill Gates, George Soros, in my mind, probably
Klaus Schwab.
Oprah.
Klaus Schwab.
They are the ones that hold their thumb on everything.
They think they help.
But I think the people's tired of it.
I think
Everybody's done with it.
now. We've got an opposition, which will be Elon Musk.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're going to have
He's
the
the
opposite.
opposite of those people, so they have a fight on their hands.
Well, and he's a
now.
hell of a lot smarter
But-
than any of them.
But
Oh yeah, and he's like, "You're not going to sway me by money."
Right, he could buy it.
how many state attorneys has instantly went after George Soros or Bill Gates? George Soros pumped all this money in for all these DAs and stuff over all these states. Did he ever get caught up? You know, Elon Musk says anybody that promises to vote pro First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, you know, everybody goes into a hat. I'll give somebody $1 million every so often. You know, instantly you have state attorneys going after him.
Mm-hmm.
How many people's went after George Soros
Oh, sure.
or Bill Gates? None.
Why didn't they?
Because that's a difference.
Because they're
the ones that set him up.
It's a narrative, yeah.
Where Elon just come out of the
And he's African American.
and he didn't buy anybody to start with, so they oppose him because he's not in their little group.
Well, no, they loved him at first. They loved him because he was doing SpaceX. They loved him because
They love Trump.
Electric cars,
Yeah,
yeah.
they love Trump. They love all these people until the TV tells them not to love them anymore.
And that's our next kind of topic, really. I think that smoothly goes into the mainstream media, the corporate media, the legacy media, whatever you want to call them. Their days are done. They're done.
Yep.
You know, I
You'd
mean,
hope,
it's a
but
different
they got
world.
a lot of money. I think they'll hang on
yes,
for
they
a
do.
while.
But their ratings are they're in the sewer, which is the right place for them.
Oh, all right.
And I'm looking for the likes of MSNBC, NBC, ABC, all those big bunch of
Well, they just announced massive layoffs today, I want to say.
yeah,
And did. Yep.
Yeah.
you know, and rightly
Surprise.
so. About time. You put
They're
your
learning
money,
how markets
you put
work.
your money on the wrong dog. You've been playing this game, and you're not a news outlet. Don't tell me you're a news outlet. You're not. You're a propagandized show, and a shit show at that.
They're entertainment. That's all it is. That's
Well,
you know,
they're
no,
learning.
it's way worse than that, because entertainment means that you're getting some enjoyment from it, something positive. This isn't entertainment. This is demonic, right?
But they also get special credentials and breaks and all this for being journalists.
Sure.
They're
Yeah,
not
but-
journalists.
They're not.
But I'm
they're-
saying they
not,
get big
right,
breaks
but
for
they're
that.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how dare they call themselves
the journalists are supposed to go get facts and report them, and everything now is an opinion piece.
That's
It's
it.
just my
It's
opinion.
a
I
narrative.
have
Everything's a
nothing
narrative.
else.
Good.
It's just my opinion. All the opinions are left leaning.
You know how
But-
opinions are.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's got one. They all stink but mine. I didn't get a kiss.
Yes, you did.
By the way,
This
hang on,
is Mike
hang on. This is Mike.
Mike
How you
Myers.
doing?
Mike
Nice to
Heather.
meet you.
Mike Meyers
Mike, yes, the
right.
Mike Myers.
from.
he likes reclamation projects, which is why he's up there hanging out with these slack jaws.
I live in Boone's Mill.
Okay, very good. All right. What did you guys need anything?
winning lottery
It's
ticket
nice
would
and
help.
cozy in here, and it feels good.
It's beautiful. This
Good to
is this
see
is
you.
what we try and project out here to everybody when we reach out to them and say, look, when you come on this show, it's more. It's not. You're not
It's
coming
an
to some
experience.
stuffy studio. You're coming for an experience, a cabin experience. And when you say for the weekend, you get a music experience. You ride the mountain. You hike. You get to enjoy Appalachia. That's why. If you're listening to this, please share the show. Give us a 5-star rating on whatever you're listening to. Get us out there. Let people know. When you come up here, we have never had anybody say they had a bad time on a show or ever say they don't want to come back again.
And I mean, I've had a drink, but I swear to God, that dog just opened that door a minute ago.
It did.
It walked in here and opened that damn door by
It's a
itself.
smart dog.
Hell, you damn right it is. That was impressive. That's got a knob on it and everything.
Well, and when you talk about corporate media, I think that's it kind of segues, not to double segue here into something very quickly, but kind of something that I wanted to bring up about over the past couple of months and the importance of things. Us as a show, we went through a lot of up and downs the past couple of years. And, I started out the show and it was very racing centric in the beginning, the music, and then, kind of made a change. Simon come on board and we started looking at the more liberty minded farming, how can we, uplift the Appalachian region, which was my passion, which, I really wanted to go. And shout out to Spike Cohen, who just had his anniversary with his lovely wife, Miss Tasha, and his organization, You Are the Power. Make sure you are following them.
Follow them for sure.
If you got a couple of dollars a month, send it their way. They're doing good things in Appalachia, sniffing out corruption. Spike's a good friend. And I'm a monthly donator. As it come out of my account once a month because I believe in what he's doing. And he gave us an opportunity for a huge break.
He's a good man.
Him coming to our little corner of Appalachia and
He's a good man.
staying for 2 or 3 days, embracing the culture, and then be able to go back and tell people, man, that was a fun time, And actually, that's the day Chip first came and got to experience.
Well, and we'll see him again in February.
Absolutely.
So
For everybody that's interested, we'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, Spike came up here, and that's when I reached out to Chip. Chip came up here, and no, it wasn't one of those shows that just blew up the internet and went viral on that because we didn't have videos at the time, but the right people listened to it. But most importantly, the right people like Amos kind of saw what was going on and said, man, if you can get a vice presidential candidate up here to this cabin to come stay 2 or 3 days and hang out and shoot guns, who in the hell can't you get up here? So what Spike did by coming was inspiring more people.
Yeah.
And now that has kind of just snowballed. It has snowballed.
Absolutely it has.
And since our last recording, which was, a couple of months ago, in that time frame, we've went from about 30 to 35,000 followers on social media to we're moving in on 95,000 now. That's just in a couple of months. Chip helped out tremendously with, his following at Being Libertarian and sharing some of our stuff. But the important thing is people are yearning for
change.
quality,
For change.
for real. They want to tune in and see real stuff. They want to hear real people talk. They want to see that real people are coming together. And, through the tragedy in North Carolina, I think people started turning towards us to being a voice of Appalachia. And I think that's something that we really need to take very seriously moving forward. I think now people are looking towards us, no matter what part of the region you're in, and saying, all right, that's the Appalachian podcast. Those boys are on top of it. They're looking out for our best interest. We're going to tune in and listen. We have a ton of new followers, ton of new listeners. Thank all of y'all who are new, haven't had a chance to do it yet.
We're the unheard
Great.
voice.
well,
But not so much anymore. And that's why
Not now.
That's why things are important. That's why the legacy media crashing is our opportunity to rise.
Well, and Appalachians and Libertarians moved the needle. I mean, they had an influence in this significantly, and continue to. I mean, the last bit we heard was, Elon Musk talking about meeting with Ron Paul to talk about what all he can cut from government.
Oh,
I mean, that's
fantastic.
just, that is red meat for a libertarian. That's what we've been waiting for.
The libertarians now have a genuine seat at the table and can influence their policies in a way that blends with where this country needs to go. I think this is a great opportunity.
Well, I don't understand the hate of, there's a lot of libertarians that are just upset with this and, we should have been supporting Chase Oliver.
I
who had the
don't get
lowest.
that.
I don't get that either
because we're anti-progressive.
Is this not what we've always wanted, though? Is literally a seat at the table and literally the influence of, Ron Paul, which
and
we
at
have.
this point in time, the level of influence we are getting in return is a whole lot greater than what we expected. Because at the Libertarian Convention, when Chip and I were there covering it, we kind of expected, okay, maybe he'll get somebody in his cabinet to get into his ear. But that's not counting that he's brought Elon on board, who's now going to bring Ron Paul on board. Talking about bringing
he's gone above the
side.
people, and now he's gone to policy. He is actually embracing libertarian ideas in the Fed. Where the hell did that come from?
Where did it come from in the GOP? I mean, this is unheard of. So the GOP is reinventing itself, which I think has been long overdue. We're exposing the progressive woke lunacy of the Democrats. I want the Democrats to come back and be Democrats, and then we can have a fair discussion at the table. But we don't have it with the progressives because they're fascists.
That's exactly right.
So.
And they seem to have no morals.
Zero. None.
I mean, and that's where we got to be with the country. I mean, you got to have you can do what you want, but there has to be some set rule of morals, at least to raise your kids on some way. And then if they go a different direction after they're old enough, and, that's 18 or whatever. I mean,
but let's not indoctrinate them.
No.
Let's not do that.
Not indoctrinate them, but raise them on some good values. And you can't decide your sex before you're 18.
Let's call it critical thinking. Right?
Yeah, and that was a big thing for years, is critical thinking. I used to teach at a college, and it was a long time ago. It was back in Pennsylvania. I taught for offspring of Penn State. It was Penn College.
Okay.
And critical thinking was like the buzzword. Everything every so many years it goes through different buzzwords, and they start using it. But that was it, and that's just gone now.
Can you imagine what Trump's buzzwords are going to be? You get RFK Jr. in the health department. Hey, fatty, lose some weight. I mean, it's going to be nice, isn't it? I mean,
think it's great to be able to get away with that.
It's going to be great. We're gonna be back.
Well, that's like sitting at the table here and just shooting the shit. It's like he just says what he thinks, and that's what people hate about him. And of course, I gotta admit, a lot of times listening to him, I just get, oh, come on. But
sure,
it's like his policies and what he's doing is great, but the way
I think ultimately it's the best.
His delivery is
he
not
doesn't even drink,
statesmanlike.
but you think he's drunk half the time.
That's well said.
Yeah, but there's that's the non-statesman of Trump that I don't like. But I'm okay with that.
Again, I'm that way after a few beers, but
the policies
whatever.
The policies behind
what he does is good.
Is to me is for the betterment of the United States.
I'll take the mean tweets. Give me the mean tweets any day with his policies.
Yeah,
I'll take them.
But that also this moves on to what disturbs me the most about the progressive mentality is the division and hatred and madness. And where are we going to try and break that divide? Because the divide is immense. I mean, it's a Grand Canyon of divides. There is no coming together. And I don't know where that's come from. And to me, that's the propaganda campaign that we have all been subjected to. Now, if you accept that you've been subjected to a propaganda campaign, which we have, and it's one of the biggest propaganda campaigns that I think humanity has ever witnessed, that we're now... How do we claw ourselves back from that and say to the purple-haired, pink-haired, ultra woke,
shame then ignore.
Come back to the table with some common sense, because that's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing that.
Well, for you to have advancement between two people, you got to have agreement. Right? I mean, you've got to have an agreement point, and I don't know that the other side has introspection, because they've already been defeated soundly.
It's division
right.
hate.
They've been defeated soundly in this election. Yet what we see is what happened. Oh my God! I can't believe this. How did this happen? I didn't see this coming, which everybody else saw coming. And so it's part of it has to be them accepting responsibility, which they don't do. It's just something they.
Well, see,
they
I
push back
think
to do.
that's again where you need to. This is the United States. It used to be Pledge of Allegiance, all these things. All these things kept people united for being in the United States and being proud of it.
The Constitution
They're
is
trying to ruin the pride and make you embarrassed to be. No, I'm not. We're going to stay here and we got to get back there. And if you don't like it, go leave or do something else. But they need to, if you want to indoctrinate things, get it back to the United States.
Right.
Whether you want to be religious or not doesn't matter. But this is your country. Be proud of it. Stand up for it. And go against anybody who's not.
This Constitution of these United States, what an experiment. What an experiment. And we can either let it fail, which is the path we were on, or we can make it succeed.
And those people were so smart back then that it still stands today. And they wrote all those little things, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. They must have been geniuses because
think that
they had thought this out.
It has survived the internet.
Writing.
It has survived something they could not even begin to fathom.
Yeah, they would have never known.
It's survived the internet and all of the criticisms that the internet brings. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
You know,
but the bad part is it started with the taxes, and now we're back in the same boat.
Well, that I mean, it's always been government overreach and greed. So you know, being able to crush that. And coming back to states' rights, I still think that the way forward is with compromise, and compromise unfortunately has been lost. And compromise was lost when we decided that we were going to elect our senators, and that is a massive mistake. Our senators should always
term limits.
Well, our senators should always be appointed by our state governors. Because that forces compromise. As soon as you elected senators, you took that element of compromise away from the political system of the state. And that, to me, is where we really lost the plot. And we shifted it to a degree of manipulation that allowed politics to win.
And that only happened
shouldn't be the case.
Was it about 100 years ago?
Less than that.
Okay.
Way less than that.
So it's not even been 100 years that system's been in place.
And I'm all for, I mean, I would really press very strongly for senators to go back to being appointed by the governor. That gives that governor the power, but it also gives compromise within the political system such bona fides that, to me, that's how it should operate. And we stepped away from that. And why did we step away from it? Think about the root cause. Why did we step away from not having our senators elected?
Federal control.
And it was about federal control. And it's all about control. So when we take that away, let's decentralize DC. You know, we have to. I want my congressman to be operating in the territory that he is being elected for. I don't want my senator be elected. I want him appointed because it forces compromise. Compromise is the tool of government, and we've lost it because of that one element.
Well, again, when you get to those positions and you don't have to worry about your job and you're doing whatever a lobbyist or big farmer or somebody else is paying you to do, you no longer care about the people in your state.
You're done. You've been paid.
You're just going, hey, I'm living large.
Yeah.
And the hell with it.
I've got how many multi-million-dollar estates in Nantucket, Hawaii, where the hell ever, the Caribbean.
Right. You've got to be in fear of your job. It should be on merit. Now, if I don't do my job well, I should lose it.
How did AOC, as a bartender with a net worth in 2019...
Well, she hates this country. She shouldn't even be here.
But she got elected, so you've got to respect it. But she now had a net worth when she came into government of $120,000. She's now got a net worth of 4 years of service, loosely termed service. She now has a net worth of $24 million. How on earth did that happen?
We let the evil in.
So, you know, I hope Trump absolutely tears this to shreds because this shit can't happen.
And this is something he has specifically said he wants to get rid of.
And I love it.
He wants to specifically get rid of people who work in a certain industry than lobbying in that same industry. And that's long been overdue.
But the lobbyists all started as well, really from the military-industrial complex of the Pentagon. And the Pentagon has lost trillions of dollars and still isn't accountable for it. So quite frankly, you know, where do we go from here?
Well, speaking of losing millions of dollars, the Harris campaign spent $1 billion on their campaign and are now $20 million in debt.
How do you do that? and having spent $1 billion, she now can't pay her staff because she's $18 million in debt. But the kicker is the mentality behind having spent $1 million is she thought that having spent $1 million, I'm entitled to win the race.
Well, we probably owe reparations, and that should be $20 million.
Well, how on earth does that happen? It's absolute lunacy.
It's just pathetic.
But if you're paying one of the richest women in the world, Oprah,
don't even
millions,
and
Beyonce millions.
She's bitching about not being paid.
Yeah.
I'm like, kiss my ass.
Oh, my God.
She didn't look near as good on that.
Being paid from us.
Oh, wait for that P. Diddy list to come out.
That P. Diddy list is going to be
The
great.
P. Diddy list and Epstein list is going to crush them all.
So who can explain where the 20 million votes came from?
Now there's a tricky one.
Because you got 2016, we got a certain amount of votes. 2020, we got 20 million more votes. 2024, we got 20 million less votes. So you're telling me Joe Biden is more popular than Hillary?
Might uncover
or Kamala?
something there.
Well,
so what happened?
I'm a numbers man.
Well, that's an easy one. No, that's an easy one. They had everybody, essentially the entire country was sent out a mail-in ballot or whatever, and they were out there balloted Harvin like a son of a gun. So you probably have that many amount of voters out there who are apathetic, who wouldn't normally ever vote anyway. They wouldn't get off their sorry hind end and go to the polling station, but they just had that piece of paper right there, and all they had to do was just stick it in the mail. Or, you know, in many of these cases, these Democrat scavengers would go into neighborhoods and they would just go to each and every apartment, knock on the door. Hey, you got that, ballot right there. Why don't you go ahead and fill it out? Put on Joe Biden's name.
Well, they didn't even have to have a ballot.
They don't care. They'll just hand it off to them and go. Where they can get, 10,000 votes canvassing a couple of blocks in a day. It would take rural people weeks and weeks and weeks to get that done. So when you send out that many, that's probably, you just had a lot more voters that normally wouldn't have otherwise voted.
20 million.
Billy, are you suggesting, dare I say, are you suggesting that the 2020 election was corrupt?
Well, absolutely was corrupt. Any election
by 20 million votes.
Look, every election is corrupt. This last one was. Every one that has been in our lifetime has been corrupted. Look, go back and look at when McCain and Obama was running and see who their top 10 campaign contributors were for each side. 6 out of the 10 were the same for both. Look, every election is corruptible. It has been for the longest time. The only time it's not is if you have paper ballots where you go in and you actually write the person's name down and you have 3 people counting, a Democrat, a Republican, and Spike Cohen. That's it.
Here's another thing. How on earth are we still dicking around waiting for people to count votes at this time of...
Because it's corrupted. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter unless you're doing it by hand and you have 3 people counting. That's a very honest system. It worked for hundreds of years here. And until that goes back, every election is corrupted. So who even knows? I mean, you can't honestly sit here and look at what's happened in the past 8 years and not think if they didn't want Donald Trump to win this election, they weren't going to let Donald Trump win this election. So why did Donald Trump win this election? Well, he gives a boost to campaign contributions. They can fundraise off Trump all day long. They made more money fundraising off Trump in his 4 years than they ever did before. Corporate media is going to get a boost again because they're all going to talk about Trump as this is what they're banking on. I don't think it happens this time, though. I think people are sick and tired of it. They're not going to buy it. They're not going to believe it. And it's going to backfire in their faces. But I think that might have been their thought process. Let Trump win. Who cares?
One of the biggest things that I find so offensive, I am deeply offended by it, is that
Harris takes a shower at least once a week. If he hadn't had one in a couple of days.
That Harris thought that spending $1 billion would guarantee her place at the table. She was looking to buy that ticket. Now, if that doesn't tell you that we've got an immense problem with how we elect our presidential candidates, I don't know what does. I'm deeply offended by $1 billion being pissed against the fucking wind with the thought process that because I've spent that much, I should be president.
Well, when's the last time the Democrats actually honored a primary?
Oh, there we
They
go.
actually last half a primary.
Case in point.
Last time they honored a primary was, 2008 when Obama won? Because he really didn't do anything in 2012, being the incumbent. 2016, they railroaded Bernie Sanders. 2020, they railroaded Bernie Sanders. And in 2024, they railroaded the current president of the United States.
How can they do that and survive?
They're not.
I don't think they are,
Surviving.
unless they reinvent themselves and go back to the true grassroots of the Democratic Party, which, in my opinion, would be a great thing for them to do.
It's set up.
But they're not
absolutely
capable
wrong.
of doing it.
That's
They're not
absolutely
capable
wrong.
of doing it.
The true grassroots of the Democratic Party
They're with Trump now.
were pro-slave. Right?
Honestly,
Abraham
that's not what it
Lincoln.
means.
Abraham
That's not-
Lincoln was a Democrat.
Let's keep it to our lifetime.
Yeah,
Let's keep it to our
That's
lifetime.
not what he's talking about.
I'm talking
He's
about
talking
going
about
back
the
to the blue dog
Of
Democrat.
our lifetime.
That isn't-
Let's keep it in,
That isn't that dissimilar
in Simon's
from the
lifetime
Republican.
from 1935 on. That's when you were born, right?
I'm glad you're at the other end.
But
of the
Abraham
table.
Lincoln was a Democrat.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck.
He ran as a Democrat in Illinois and started the Republican Party to have a fight against in the 1840s. America was almost a one-party.
And that's been
Country.
that's been the problem, the duopoly in the one party.
Yeah.
And Abraham Lincoln left the Democrat Party, combined the Nebraska Act Party, the Whig Party, to create a party to fight against the one-party system,
But haven't the
which was the Republican Party.
but haven't the Democrats been the probably the biggest party against having a third party in the mix? They're
No, the Republicans do the same. I mean, the Republicans railroaded Ron Paul
right.
in
So the
2008.
duopoly is equally evil.
So if we're talking about third parties, then let's segue into the Libertarian Party's candidate, Chase Oliver. How'd he do in this election?
He got caned. He got his pants pulled down, and But
He got a
you-
BBB.
But you put a progressive, which is nothing more than a bloody Democrat, right, in the same position. I'm like, what were you thinking? I mean, libertarianism is the concept is great, but you polluted it by having the duopoly going, well, I'm either a right-wing libertarian or I'm a progressive libertarian. They chose the progressive libertarian. What on earth were they thinking?
Thinking back and looking at how things operated, it's not far-fetched to believe that there's a good possibility that the actual brains behind the current Libertarian Party, the one who have gotten this position to be able to negotiate, were playing for D. Jesse the entire time, much of the same reason that they elected Chase Oliver, much the same reason why RFK Jr. just basically backed out of the race. And I even told Spike
Smart
this.
move.
I told Spike this at the convention. I was like, if you would have got the nomination or you wanted to run for it, you would have easily got it. I'd have been out here campaigning for you every day. I'd have been knocking doors. But, leading up to this moment in time, everybody thought Kennedy, was still a third party candidate. Why go out there when the Libertarian Party is on fire? Why would you go out there and blow your load? And whether it be you or Dave Smith or anybody, you're not going to compete against Trump this go round and Kennedy if he were to have stayed on that ticket.
Spike played the long game, and very wisely so, with the benefit of hindsight.
Well,
And
well, think back to one of our people we had on the show, Mike Termile.
Well,
He actually made this ticket happen.
Yeah.
He made the agreement to actually have this ticket.
was there a strategy behind that?
Yes,
I
I
don't-
do. I think so. That's the only reason Chip likes us.
This goes on to my point. There is a strategy behind everything that's been everything, right? Bear with me on this. Everything has been game planned. Jack Smith, those cases against Trump, that was all game planned, right? The Fanny, whatever her bloody name is. Anyway, Willis, it was all game planned. The game planning and the timing of these judicial assaults on Trump were all game planned.
After he announced that he was running again.
Well, no, I mean, to me, the game planning is they've uncovered themselves to a point where we can now nearly see them, right? Because what happened in that game planning, we knew. To me, it's so obviously game planned with the collapse of these legal cases, right? That it was obstruction, it was sedition, okay, it was election interference. This is plain as day in my mind because I think further ahead. Start thinking further ahead. This is exactly by design, and don't think it wasn't.
Well, that's why we got to, have that question because, the Libertarian Party did not put forth nobody worth a shot total. That's all the 9, 10, 12, however many people actually went to the convention. None of them. Their best bet was Spike Cohen and Dave Smith. That's 100%. Either one of them are going to get you the most exposure. Like I said, this go-round, it would have been a throwaway anyway. I don't know. Maybe there was some back because Termont was a Mises guy. Maybe he said, Clinton doesn't want this now since what's his name, Rechtenwald didn't win. So Clinton's like, well, I don't want this now. I don't want to work with Chase, whatever. Termont's like, whatever the hell, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then now nobody pays attention to the Libertarian Party anymore, and they can go off and work hand in hand with the Trump administration, still get that seat at the table, still now start fundraising off of that. But like, look, now we have a seat at the table. Now we'll start working on getting people put into positions. We can work hand in hand with the GOP and get some of our policies implemented as instead of being at their throats 100% of the time. Because we all had Mike up here. Dennis came up here, made us dinner. It's the second time, Simon and I had him on the show. Mike's a good dude. He's an intelligent guy, really smart. I really, wanted to go to the voting booth and vote for him because he is a friend, but I could not bring myself to vote for Chase Oliver just by whatever message it is that he's spitting out there.
Well, and shout out to Angela McArdle, who's the chairman of the Libertarian Party, because she actually took those meetings with Trump and set all of this up. I mean, she's the one who brought Trump to the convention. She brought RFK Jr. to the convention and actually gave the Libertarians a seat at the table. And for all her efforts, she's being sued, of course, by Libertarians for doing all that. Yeah, there's a lawsuit.
Because at the end of the day, Trump and RFK, both of them were libertarian.
Well, they're closer.
They're
closer to libertarians than
their thinking process is libertarian.
Different
thinking.
platforms that they have are very libertarian.
I won't say they're because
absolutely.
Kennedy was to be a libertarian. You got to be a little bit better on guns than Kennedy ever was.
But think of the health. All his health stuff is libertarian.
It is very much so. He has libertarian principles.
That's what I'm saying.
To
parts of their platforms are libertarian.
Yep. Yeah, he's got them.
What's libertarian think on guns? I'm not sure.
Leave me the fuck alone.
Yep, I want
That's
as many
what a
guns as I
libertarian
want.
thinks about guns.
But you don't have to. You don't have to be a gun toter to be a libertarian. I mean, libertarian. I mean, we need lawyers, we need doctors, we need gun toters.
Mm-hmm.
But free thinking. I mean, to me, when I think libertarian, I think free thinking,
open-minded.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't align with jack shit. I align with Amos.
There you go. And you should.
Mainly.
Everybody needs to do that.
Well,
individuality.
But I'm open to everybody's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Even Billy's swayed me on a couple things.
Wow.
But think.
I
mean, God give every one of us a brain to think. If you if he tells me something about an airplane and that's what he does for a living, I ain't gonna say I don't believe you. But I mean, I'm gonna
you can question.
Look it up. I'm gonna question you. I mean, that don't mean I disagree. I want to at least understand how much you know about what you're telling me.
Question everything. I mean, that's a smart thing to do.
Don't be a sheep.
That's right. That's what classical education tells us to do. But
it all backs up to education.
In the last 10 years, we've had a push away from that. And thank goodness we've got somebody who recognizes that and at least sounds like they're moving back.
Well, but then you've got to also look at the international opinion of Trump, which is horrendous.
No, it's great.
Well, from Europe.
Not with Europe.
Who cares?
Well, from
you become
a lot of countries don't agree with him because he's like paying.
No shit, because he's America first.
Right.
They're getting rich off our ass.
I mean, exactly. I agree with you.
Yep.
But
exactly.
That's why I like Trump. I mean, they fear him because he's a wild card. He's crazy as hell.
That's why I like him.
Well, I agree with you.
I mean, never
he'll
liked the
be
guy.
like, yeah, bullshit, pay up or we ain't going to protect you. I know we have an agreement, but if you ain't paid up, then forget it. And
what would you do if you were a business owner?
We're going to be tariffs
Exactly.
Of course,
Yeah.
I agree with the tariffs, but you got to implement them slowly to give all the big corporations time
To
to
relocate
get back
industry.
and relocate. You can't just throw giant ones out the door because it will screw us.
Well,
If you
I
got
mean, if
balls
you
enough
do
to
is-
ride down the road with your balls in a wheelbar, you ain't never going to implement them.
You use
Because
that wheelbar.
you're going to say, I'm going to do this, and they're going to change your shit.
Right.
Look
But
already what's
Yeah.
happened
even
since
if you
that
do
election.
it, you got to do it slowly, and then you give all the corporations time to, hey, now it's starting to cost us this much, and I know he's going to increase them. Let's move back to America. If you throw them out there, then it's like, I don't have the money to move back, and I can't pay the tariffs, and
Well, that's
then it just
So
ruins.
you're saying you'd rather die slow than
Well, no,
die fast?
Well, it's just that's the hesitation of tariffs is that it
yeah,
is.
but this is not dying, because I'd rather die fast if I got to die.
But if you own a company and,
But if you own a company, I
Trump
want
says
time to move.
I'm hitting everybody with 200% tariffs, you're gonna be like, dude, this is gonna hit me hard up front. Instead of me making $50 million bonus for the next couple of years, I'm probably gonna have to make 5. But I'm
Yeah,
gonna get my
but
shit
some
together.
companies won't even be able to survive that.
Bullshit.
Well, but the people are going to have to pay
Look what
for
their
that.
look what their
That's-
CEOs are making.
That's going to be like inflation. You're going to be paying. People are going to be paying more money. They're going to pass that cost on to people.
Yeah, they're not going to.
But all our medicine's made in China.
Oh, I don't disagree with you.
I guarantee you that there's plenty of places in this country and that we would make our own medicine.
What? Hey,
Mhm.
when that Asheville thing. Now, this is just something that popped in my head when you're talking about that. But I saw a thing that they're talking about all these hospitals, these people in Asheville, all this terrible stuff, and 90% of the IV bags were made at a company in Charlotte, and it shut down.
Mhm.
Now, how screwed up is that?
How does that happen?
Well,
Right.
Who owns that company?
I don't know.
and that's legitimate because when my son was in with his appendix, they had a problem. They said, "Look, we're short on IV bags. Like we have a shortage." And
That's bullshit.
at the major hospital in Winston Salem, at Baptist
Why
Hospital, they had a
couldn't
shortage.
you? I mean, at least, as critical as that is
Mhm.
for all surgeries,
Right.
everything you go in for, IV, you're losing fluids. We should have at least 5 companies
Absolutely.
in this country producing them.
That's right.
You can't just have it all in one place. They produce 90%, and we do have another one, but they only produce 10%.
Mhm.
And
I mean,
everything is produced
and-
overseas.
Yep.
And
Hey,
then,
we're not CEOs or geniuses, but we figured it out right here. It's
We
like,
can
come
see
on,
it.
that's just common sense.
and it
It is
takes
common.
one supply chain to screw the whole lot up.
Yeah, and don't you think every other country that hates us knows what supply chain and what they need to disrupt if they want to fuck up this country?
Mhm.
I mean, they're
Oh,
smart
I
enough
get
to
it.
research all that.
But the corporate mentality, which is really derived from greed.
Oh, yeah.
It's derived from greed. It's about paying your shareholders. That mentality has to stop, and we've got to embrace for the greater good. That isn't a concept that wouldn't go down with us paying a little bit more. It really wouldn't.
And I think that's another America First policy. Take
I
care of
agree
ourselves
100%.
first. Whether we pay a little more, we'll have cleaner food, we'll have more medical supplies. We won't have everything,
We
all our
control our
eggs in one
destiny.
basket.
We control our destiny.
And we have to be ready to do that, though. You have to be ready to pay
and,
that
and that's a
extra bit.
slow having
But I honestly, at the end of the day, don't think I honestly think you pay less. I don't think you pay anymore.
Ultimately, you will, but you've got to get that manufacturing
And,
industry
you know,
back.
I look at my wife works for the railroad, and Virginia has a runoff tax.
Well, Roanoke buggered the railroad there.
So for every square foot of property that the railroad owns, they have to pay a tax for water that runs off.
Was
runoff
it
tax.
EPA derived? Let me guess.
From the federal government.
Oh, yeah. That's,
And so then you have all this, that is costing just exuberant amounts of money, millions and millions of dollars. Then the train derails in East Palestine, Ohio. The railroad has a emergency contingency plan. This is what we do to clean this up. Then you have the government agencies come in and say, no, we light it on fire. We burn it.
Now, that was fucked up.
It
And
was.
so then we burn it and shit goes all to hell. What happens? It's the railroad's fault. Not that we never heard that the railroad had a plan
No accountability.
to clean up this mess. What we heard was the railroad derailed and ruined everything in East Palestine, Ohio. You know, that stuff has to end because companies don't want to.
You can't function.
Companies
as a
do not
corporation.
want to screw people.
Lawsuits, everything else. You know, like you said about everything, they're going to pass the cost down to us. No matter what gets fined, no matter how many lawsuits, we have to pay for it.
Mike, you've hit the
So
nail on
let's
the head.
Get rid of regulations,
Exactly.
and we take care of it, and it'd be a lot cheaper.
Absolutely.
Every cost that we impose on corporate US gets filtered down to the end user. And the end user is every man around this table.
And even this goes to like the airplane industry. Boeing is in Oregon, Washington. Where they at?
Washington, I think.
So what was it? 6-8 years ago, they wanted to move their facilities to South Carolina. That's a right to work state. They got sued
Let's see that.
to the point that they could not move. They have to stay there. So we have to pay our people stupid amounts of money, even though they ain't worth jack shit.
But again, that's another thing with government contracts. There's so many with Boeing. They're one of them too big to quit
Too
things.
big to
Too
fail.
bad to fail.
Yeah.
That's
Well, that shouldn't be another. We need more people in competition so that we don't have one that's too big to fail, because
nobody should ever be.
They're
too big
doing
to fail.
terrible, but they keep propping them up. Look at their space thing. Couldn't even bring the people back. They went up for 8 days and were up there for almost 8 months. SpaceX had to go save it.
That's called kidnapping.
And Elon, yes.
That's kidnapping.
It is proven that private money wants results without bullshit. Hence the reason that Elon can take that bigly nice rocket and set it back down, and these arms reach out and grab it and set it down.
Amazing.
Yes, it is.
And, the Democrats were so after Elon, his Tesla car.
Oh,
they ignored him because, they ignored him. They took on all the Chinese and celebrated them and left Elon out of a lot of things. The same with SpaceX. He said, I can build a rocket quicker than they can get me the permits to launch it, because they harass me every step of the way. But we have this big contract with our government for him to do this stuff, and he's good at it. And
whether he's good at it or whether he's good enough to put people in place that are good at it.
Right. So hopefully when Trump gets in, again, less regulations, less hassle. We should be dominating, Well,
right now, the DOJ is going after Elon Musk for not hiring enough, basically, illegals and refugees, despite the fact that it's an actual law that says he cannot hire illegals and refugees.
Right, I was going to say.
He's following the law, but they're going after him for it.
The greatest African this country's ever employed.
That's the thing. That's because he's running under the same regulations as the FAA. You have to be a citizen. You have to have FBI background checks just to get an airport license and everything. So, he can't hire him, but they're going after him. So it's
right.
Another regulation needs to be
I wonder what
out.
radicalized him. I wonder.
Well, his son, I think, is the thing he's got him the most. See, he said that too. His son.
He said he lost his son. He's like, I lost him.
We lost him to the woke ideology, and his son turned transgender or something.
Yeah, he said, what the heck did he call it? Dead naming.
Yeah.
He's like, dead naming is because they went woke. He says, and I have a son like that, and he goes, and I'm going to fight that woke to the end.
And that starts in the very beginning of the education system.
Yeah. Oh, God.
It starts right here around this table. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
But not having a kid in school, unless you watch the news or know people or talk to them. I mean, I wouldn't know anything about that because, I don't have anybody familiar with the situation, and I don't have any children that are going to school. And I mean, but when you hear about it, it just like lights your head on fire. It's like, are you kidding me? How can that happen? Because when I went to school, man, they had a big ass paddle and they could spank the hell out of you. And then if you told your parents, you go home and get your ass beat again.
Well,
For getting in trouble at school.
I was flogged at school, trust me.
Oh, yeah, I was too.
Here's what, at the end of the day, here's what I think. I think that, first and foremost, I think that COVID was it made up?
You're damn straight.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was definitely a rigged bullshit. But the best thing about it was that all of the Billies, all of us, Mike and Gone ain't got kids in school or kids. They got kids. Well, I don't know if Mike does, but it made us understand. It made us realize and see what was really going on.
It made us stand up.
It made us see what was really going on.
It made us stand up.
I didn't want my kid wearing a mask in school.
Yep. Likewise.
And, my sister's a teacher, and she was like, Amos, here's the deal. You got two options. Either you can get your daughter
exempt
to wear a mask, or she's going to be put in the back of the class
That's what happened
with
Mike.
plexiglass around her
That's
desk
what
on
happened
three
with Mike.
sides and get made fun of by the rest of the students. And
Ostracized.
parents started realizing, parents decided, we want to know what's really going on. That, Democrats, liberals, thought it was a control man. I'm still convinced that it was a trial run to see how fast we can convince everybody to do what we say.
But it backfired on them because when people got in those classrooms through Zoom and saw what those teachers were teaching,
exactly,
backfired on them.
We all realized
And they reignited
how
that Trump
bad it
movement
was.
from 2016. Whatever.
Well,
Trump
it
had
wasn't even the Trump movement from 2016.
I'm saying, but whatever it was that excited people to get fired up in 2016, COVID reignited that.
A plus some. I mean, when you're working a job and either you got to get this shot or you're getting fired, and this shot, how can you do that? It took us like 13 years to come up with a vaccine for, the flu.
Well, the other thing is the large
Did you get the jab?
medical corporations.
He had to get his job.
Yeah, to keep my job. But I got a Johnson & Johnson one,
Smart move.
which
Like a big Johnson.
Not mRNA. Yes, I know the argument.
That's
You
right.
chose wisely.
right. I took the Johnson & Johnson and that kept my job, but I wasn't going to take it at all. And just to hell with it. They could do what they want. My girlfriend was going to get it, and I was like, well, we were at like Walmart, and I was like, well, if they got an extra, I'll go ahead and take that. Because she had looked it up and said, well, the Johnson & Johnson made different doesn't have
mRNA.
A
mRNA.
snapper's
Let's
Let's
powerful.
think about how nuts that is. They're telling you to go to Walmart to get something that's supposed to save your life.
Yeah. But
Walmart.
Yeah, which was one of the only stores that wasn't closed down.
But yeah, the other
Funny
thing
how that
is,
works.
Funny that.
is they went and implemented that, like, well, the big pharma can't be sued even if you die or there's all these side effects. I'm like,
Big
Oh,
Pharma's got a day of
so-
reckoning coming.
yeah,
Yes, I hope.
here you go. Shoot them up whatever you want. You can make an experiment. If it goes bad, they can't sue you.
How dare you make that law?
Well, I don't know that can be. I think that can be broken. Chip can break that shit. Good
Yeah, I don't know,
lawyers,
but they got
lawyers
it.
can find a way to fight that.
They got a lot of good lawyers on their side, too.
Yeah, of course they do.
Yeah, because they got billions of dollars put in their bank.
Right. So even if you fought it, I mean, we'd die before there'd be a settlement.
I didn't take a shot.
Neither did I. And I'm
I
damn
wouldn't
proud
if
of
I didn't sort of have to. But again, that's
But you should in America, you should never be put in the spot where
it. How dare you?
your entire career, your entire life hinges on a jab.
What happened to my body, my choice?
die,
Oh,
the shot or DEI. I'm like, I got to take both.
And gone and raised help me, want
And
me to
which
take that
is
shot
none.
forever and ever. And then after the fact, you don't even know how many people I've heard say, man, I hadn't been right since that.
Oh, I know a lot of people that said they have a lot of.
I mean, older people, you know.
We haven't seen the end of this by a long shot.
No, because they still got boosters.
Yeah.
People are still taking them.
They're still punting.
It's like a GMO experiment. Humans instead of corn.
Come and get a flu COVID shot.
You just look at the numbers of the young guys, the young men
We're done.
that have died, like playing football, and like the heart problems of young males.
Look at the reproduction that's going to happen as a result of this, or the lack thereof. Oh yeah, we got made blanks.
It's not a problem that I got.
Well, we know that, Billy. Thank you very much.
But
Clearly.
my argument's waning on this unvaccinated sperm thing you've been on, Billy. My
I'm firing
wife is
on,
not
I'm
buying
firing
it
on
no
all
more.
cylinders at 42 years old.
Be
That's all I
careful
can
with
say.
Billy. Don't even shake his hand.
Hell no, he'll sneeze and you get pregnant.
Got any estrogen, he'll take it.
Don't even shake his hand.
Yep.
Well, the turnaround's got to be thinking. Everybody has to think. You got to teach your kids to think for themselves.
Please, Lord.
Question everything you hear. Don't disagree with it. Question it.
Yeah.
Just make
Don't knee jerk it.
Yeah.
We'll find middle ground.
Question.
We
Especially
will
with
find
the
middle
internet.
ground.
How quick is it
All
to
of it.
look up facts? It's
Well,
like, well, you
depends on
said
what-
that. Let me see.
Depends on what
these days,
facts
you
are.
can't even trust the internet. A lot of times they will push
Depends
you
on your site.
in the wrong direction. You got to know what to look for.
We have to find the middle ground. You know, how do we do that?
We
I think
start
that
by
with a lot of faith.
we start right here too. You know, doing what we're doing,
Yes.
and then inspiring people.
Yeah.
You know, Amos wasn't in here. We was telling a story earlier, but you know,
I was out there having a moment with his wife.
Spike coming up here didn't make us go viral. It just made somebody like Amos take another look at us, and the more people like Amos take another look at us, means maybe we're doing something right over here. So, yeah, I think it's a good spot to end it. What do y'all think? Y'all?
Yeah.
One more thing. So, 98% of all the children born in the world are born geniuses. It's a proven fact. And in America, in the 60s, NASA paid this commission to do a study on how we can hire geniuses,
How we can find them
how we can find them.
easily? Yeah, I know exactly what you're
This
talking
is
about.
NASA. Listen up.
This is
folks.
NASA.
Listen up.
So they commissioned this guy to get together a bunch of doctors and figure out how can we find the brightest minds in the world? And guy's named Dr. George Land, whatever, got together a group of like 50 doctors, and they went out and found 500 kids. They were like 3 years old and started putting them through tests. 5 years old, they determined that 98% of the kids in America were born geniuses.
They had
When
the
it, when,
potential.
when, when it came to problem solving, figuring out stuff on their own, you know, whatever, give them pieces, complete problem solving, they'd figured out, mechanicking. They started elementary school. And 12 years old, after being in elementary school for 6 years, out of that, 100% of them students, it went from 98% genius problem solving mind to 30%. At 16 years old, out of them kids, it was down to 12%.
Oh.
When they graduated high school and went to college, out of them kids, 2% was considered genius. I mean, you can research me. I'm one chromosome away from being Asperger's. So, and the government refused. I mean, and you can look it up. I mean, there's enough information out there to look it up. When that doctor released his findings 20 years later,
down, didn't they?
they refused to release his findings because his determination was that the public education system took 98% geniuses down to 2% geniuses in 20 years. And that's raw numbers. You know me. Y'all know me. I'm a numbers fool. Numbers don't lie. And everything we talk about on a weekly basis boils down to we are willing to let the powers that be dumb our kids down from 98% geniuses to 2% geniuses.
Because they need them in certain classes.
That's exactly right.
Class. We need a factory class.
They need them controllable.
We need control.
Everybody if you don't pass this, if all of y'all don't pass this same test, you fail.
Because that's a control group.
Yeah. Again, control.
And to me, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Now,
even some of the smartest people.
I'm a homeschooled kid, dropped out of school at 10th grade from my mama. That was rough. We got to teach people's got to think. You got to think, process information,
research it.
Some of the smartest people in this world dropped out of college, maybe went back later, but then they become successful in whatever endeavor they ended up on, their business adventure and everything else, because again, they realize
they're willing to think.
Yeah.
And
this isn't going to get me anywhere, and I have an idea. I'd rather run with my idea, and now I own a giant corporation, and I never finished college, but I'm one of the smarter ones because I didn't stay in the group.
There you go.
Because you wasn't.
Love it.
You wasn't indoctrinated.
Right. I didn't stay in the group, and I didn't go the direction that the college was telling me. I went off on my own because I saw a different view. And again, that's a lot of CEOs and stuff in this country.
What percentage of NASA engineers in the mid 80s were college educated?
I don't know.
Amos does, because he don't ask a question he don't know the answer to.
Over 60% of NASA's engineers in the late 70s, early 80s were either homeschooled or high school dropouts.
I identify.
Well, that makes sense because those things weren't around for them to be taught. So they had to be pioneers in what they were doing. Mm-hmm.
I mean, my wife says you're the only person I know that will go buy something brand new, take it straight to the shop, take a plasma cutter and a welder to it because you think you can improve it. I said, I don't think I can. I know I can.
Mm-hmm. That's why you do it.
That's a good place to cut it off. Who all else?
Don't be scared to think.
Final thoughts? Anything, Simon?
I think we've covered our board very sufficiently. I think we've got to do a lot of introspection over the next 4 years. I think we've got to take this division away.
It's got to go.
It has to go. I don't care how they do it. Don't give me platitudes. Oh, we need to unite the country. Kiss my ass. That's already been divided, and you've done it very well. Okay, so let's figure about how we do this as a society, and not be dictated to by these manipulating forces that really are absolutely destroying this country.
Jeff, Amos,
as a country, as a people, we've already done that.
Yeah, we did it.
I mean, I'm hanging out with an Englishman, a slack-jawed,
mouth-breathing
veteran. I gotta give him that much. A lawyer.
Oh,
I have a Jamaican that's living at my wood shop. Santa Claus sitting on the couch, and Mike Meyers sitting here. I mean, as a people, we've already done it.
Share the love.
Now we just have to vote to make sure our government thinks like we think.
We've got to do.
We're not what they say we are.
Oh, hell no.
We're what we know we are. The reason that Trump got the popular vote.
Love it.
Because we can stick together. It don't matter if you're black or Latino or white or a fresh Englishman.
God save the Queen. Long live the Republic, by the way.
God save the Queen. We don't care.
No.
We don't inherently hate anybody.
Absolutely not.
I mean, I hate lawyers on a bad day.
Sorry, Chip.
I hate doctors on a bad day. I can hate Billy on a good day.
it happens.
But at the end of the day, we don't wake up wanting to hate on somebody.
He loves.
They convince us to hate each other.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't fall into that.
And don't fall for it.
Don't fall for that.
I won't call your statistics out tonight. I'll wait till another day because I'll wait until I'll give you some time. But he talks about how lawyers have switched to legislators. That's wrong. I statistically can show you are incorrect there. Lawyers were more involved in politics earlier on. They haven't switched. There are less lawyers today and legislators than there's ever been in politics.
But we got more legislators.
Well, but your argument was that there were more lawyers now, and that's not true. That's why I'm calling you out.
And you might be right.
I am right. I know I'm right.
I like
That's how we should roll. That's how we should roll.
So I love you too.
Love you
Well,
too, Amos.
for that, everybody, we
Watch
appreciate you.
Escalators.
Be sure you're going to our Patreon and subscribing. It's only $3 a month minimum. If you want to give a one-time donation, you can always go to Venmo or Cash App at Get On Tap for both of those. But I always tell everybody either go to Patreon or go to X and subscribe because you get subscriber-only content, and it's a lot easier to interact with us. And look, more people interact, more subscribers we got. They come up here and hang out for shows. They come to some of our events and stuff. These are going to be coming down the pipe soon, so we're encouraging everybody to do that. Once again, that's patreon.com/GetOnTap or at X at GetOnTap. You can subscribe for $3 a month over there. We need to get y'all boys a subscription so you can join in on the subscriber-only spaces and whatnot we got going on, but we'll get there at some point in time. Chip, tell them where they can find you at.
Being Libertarian, anywhere, any of the platforms, you can find us at Being Libertarian. All the platforms were there, but I can't go through all the iterations. Unfortunately, we've got too many.
Yeah.
But yeah, just look us up. Being Libertarian. If we have a bunch of followers, that's us.
Follow Chip Slade, basically.
Yeah,
You'll find Being Libertarian.
That's right. You'll find us.
Google him. He's there.
Yeah. For everybody else that's helped us out, chipped in, big shout out to Smokey. Hopefully he'll be here for one of our next shows. We'll get him back in the mix of things. But like I said, this show, next show, whatever you want to get them early. Patreon's where you do it at. Patreon.com.
Big one coming up on
Get On
Tuesday.
Tap. Yep. Big show coming up here in the near future. So
Yeah.
Stick around, and we appreciate all y'all. We'll see you next time.
We drive trucks, we plow fields, we'll work from sun up until it goes back down again. We raise hell on Friday nights. It becomes Sunday morning, you can find us at the Church of Christ. It may sound like a simple life, but the living sure is fine. Yeah, where I come from, we drank moonshine. If it can be broken, it can be fixed. We come from busted knuckles and we know how to use a wrench. We raise our kids, we teach them wrong from right. Yeah, and you can bet your ass that they'll never back down from a fight. It may sound like a simple life, but the living sure is fine. Yeah, where I come from, we drank moonshine. Country music, we're turning way up high, and I can sing every word to a country boy can survive. We like our beer, we drink it ice cold, and the stuff we smoke, well, it's gotta be hand rolled. It may sound like a simple life, but it keeps me feeling high. Yeah, where I come from, we drank moonshine.